pod bay doors, please, Hal.
The pod bay doors are open. Thank you very much for joining us once again. I'm your host, Doug Heller, film critic and film historian for TalkMovieToMe.com. Here, in his dressed out bests, all the way down to his the tails and the white tie, Jerry Dean Roberts, film critic for ArmchairCinema.com, ArmchairOscars.com, and OverThinkingOscars.wordpress.com. The Oscar goes to Jerry Dean Roberts. How you doing, Jerry?
Members of the Academy, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, always a bridesmaid, never a bride, my foot. The great Peter O'Toole,
Yes.
Who never won a competitive Oscar.
For no reason whatsoever.
But was so gracious
Yeah.
in accepting his honorary award.
Wasn't he nominated again after that and still lost?
I think he was nominated. I thought he was nominated the same year.
It might have been that same year. It was for what was it? He was
For Venus.
Huh?
It was for Venus.
Venus. Yeah, where
Yeah.
he was playing what? He was playing
Basically himself.
Casanova. Or
Yeah.
no.
Was it?
No, Venus wasn't that. There was a limited series that he was in that he played Casanova. I'm sorry. I'm just pushing everything together.
His acceptance speech with his honorary award was so brilliant. It was so gracious after being snubbed so many times. You know, now being relieved the pressure of an envelope, I accept this award, which is now mine till death do us part. Anyway, welcome to our Oscar show.
Yay.
I look forward to this. We do this every year. If you're unfamiliar, if you're on new territory with us, this is a show where we talk about all things Oscar, but specifically run down the list of the films nominated for Best Picture.
Mm-hmm.
And this year is unusual because since they decided to make the category more elastic as of, was it 2008, 2009?
9, yeah. 10.
Because the first thing that happened after they made the decision is everybody started bitching because one of the nominees wasn't The Dark Knight.
Well, no, the reason that they changed it was because The Dark Knight wasn't nominated in 2008.
Was that it?
And they were like, okay, well, I guess we'll have up to 10. And so that was their way of getting around, appeasing the people who thought Dark Knight should have been up for Best Picture.
Well, this is the first time since 1944 that we've actually had 10.
10, yeah.
They lasted. Was it between 5 and 10? But they haven't been using all of those slots.
No, it's usually only been like 8 or 9. 9, I think, was the highest they've gotten.
Which, given the output of 2021, is very unusual that this would be the first year that they would use every slot.
Considering that there were overall better years that had decidedly more than 10 movies that should have been nominated for Best Picture.
And there's some stuff that should be here that I would have put money down. Being the Ricardos is not here. Spencer is not here.
No.
I was shocked by that. Tragedy of Macbeth is not here.
Tragedy of Macbeth, The Last Duel, hell, even House of Gucci. Everybody thought that was gonna pull these nominations. Everybody knew
They
it.
got one nomination for like production
For Lady
design
Gaga,
or something?
or was Lady Gaga nominated? Yeah.
No.
No.
I don't think
that's
she
right.
was.
I don't even. It's so funny, and what was it? And what was The Green Knight? Was amazing. Yeah. Absolutely stunning piece of work. Did you get to see it?
No, I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh, Dev Patel. Oh, it is so good. And The Last Duel is the better Ridley Scott movie of the year.
I've heard that.
Um,
But here's the thing: half of this list is stuff that you would in another year have in like a second tier of predictions.
yeah.
There are a bunch of dark horses
Oh yeah, it's
that you would never think.
just makeup and hair.
Yeah, yeah, just a bunch of stuff that you would think, would be, you would never imagine this. Now, there are some great films on this list, but there's some that are just like, okay,
Well,
you know.
and the first one that is just kind of okay. Isn't that the first one?
Let's get started on the list.
We got
And I
Belfast
don't want to
first,
sound.
right?
I don't want to sound like I'm kicking a.
I
I don't want to sound
know.
like I'm kicking a little
I
puppy,
don't.
but
It's gonna sound like I hated this movie, and I didn't. I genuinely enjoyed it, and did like watching all however long it was. It was
it's
a
98
yeah.
minutes.
It's
It
a
is Kenneth Branagh's Belfast.
it's a good movie,
It's
but
a
it's
good
not a
little
it's
movie,
not a
but
standout movie.
well, I happen to think that every director of note at some point has to make a coming of age movie that is in some way biographical. You know, what was it Alfonso Cuarón did it recently with was it Roma?
Roma, Paolo Salentino of The
Mm-hmm.
Hand of God.
Fellini
For
did it with Hammercord. George Lucas did it with
American
American
Graffiti.
Graffiti. Spike Lee did it with Crooklyn, which was woefully underrated.
Hmm.
Even Spielberg a little bit with the divorce theme in E.T.
Hmm.
John Borman with Hope and Glory. I
I
mean,
was hoping you weren't gonna say Deliverance because
no, God, no.
oh my.
Those are his vacation
It's
videos.
like
Um,
I read the book too. I don't.
Book is even worse.
Yeah, it's
But this movie,
more graphic.
I can't really say anything. I'll just say this. I'll say the same thing I did on our year-end show. It probably means more to him than it does to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's unremarkable. It's fine. It's a fine movie.
It takes place in 1969 in a working class section of Belfast, and his analog is a 9-year-old kid named Buddy,
Mhm.
and he's growing up, with all the wonderment and family tragedy and all of those, and the colorful relatives, and the only thing really notable about his upbringing is that occasionally into the streets come this ethno-nationalist war
Mhm.
between the Protestants and
Yeah,
Catholics.
the anti-Catholic or the anti-Catholics.
Yeah, yeah, and it washes its way into his view. But like I said, it means more to him than it does to me because I'm watching. I watched this film just a couple of days after I saw John Borman's Hope and Glory about a kid living in London where they're facing the Blitz.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not to compare one with the other, but it was just the film is so broad.
Hmm.
It's not specific enough. You know.
Right. And it's yeah, it he stays intentionally broad,
Mhm.
which is actually to a deficit.
Yeah.
Instead of something like, Amarcord or
Mhm.
My Life as a Dog. I don't know how. I think Lasse Hallström put some autobiographical stuff in there, even though I think it was based on a book. Um,
Yeah, and I mean, you remember that scene? You remember that scene in E.T. where they're sitting around the table and they're talking about, where's Dad?
yeah.
He's in Mexico with Sally, and that specific talking about what's going on in their lives, and they're all very upset by it.
Hmm.
And there's that space at the table where the father should be. I never got that here.
Yeah.
I saw a bunch of really popular actors giving good performances, but like I say, I'm not resisting it. It's just I have a very difficult time engaging in it.
Yeah. It's just not.
there's another coming of age story on this list that is 10 times better than this.
Um, yeah, the best part of uh, this, I think, for me, was Dame Judi Dench and Kieran Hines.
Hmm. Especially Karen Hines,
Oh,
because
Kieran Hines was wonderful
this
in
is his
this,
first nomination.
which doesn't make any sense at all because he's been
Yeah,
wonderful for decades.
yeah. Um, and Judi Dench, I mean, God, Judi Dench gets nominated every other year.
Judi Dench could sneeze on screen and she'd get nominated for a.
She's a treasure,
Yeah, she
you
is.
know.
I love her.
She picks up the ball after they've stopped nominating Meryl Streep. They gave Meryl Streep a third Oscar, and they don't have to nominate her anymore. So.
Which good
But
because
yeah,
otherwise she probably would have pulled something for Don't Look Now and or Don't Look Up and that would not have been. She should not.
if I could if I could whack this cute little puppy one more time over one more thing that just kind of irritated me, and I'm gonna sound like an ogre. I didn't like the kid. The kid was kind of irritating. I'm
Really?
sorry. I thought the kid was
Oh,
irritating.
bah.
I'm sorry. There's no place for generosity in film criticism, and I just have to tell you, I was just kind of irritated by the little kid.
I like Jude Hill. He was good.
Uh,
I enjoyed his performance. It was the acting was the strongest part of any of it.
hmm Mostly in the supporting
Yeah.
roles.
Jamie Dornan. That's a
Jamie Dornan.
wonderful performance by Jamie Dornan.
And it's kind of a bounce back. I know you didn't see it, but he was the lead in 50 Shades of Grey.
I saw the first one.
Wow, that man was a block of wood.
Oof.
I mean, good lord. He's a GQ model that just really should stay that way.
He has opened up his talent
Mm,
lately. He's better than he was in those movies. But it's like
right.
Kristen Stewart is way better than the movies that she got famous for.
Right.
And if you
And I
watch her
think
in
she's
it, she is appalling in the Twilight movies.
the funny thing is everybody's appalling in Twilight
Oh
movies.
yeah.
The great thing about Kristen Stewart and Spencer is that she gets to emote um, non-verbally. She gets to emote with body language, which she's good at.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know.
She's I want her to win.
Yeah. She
Um,
won't.
I know, but I want her to. Um, I'm happy she got a nomination because she
Mhm.
didn't get a SAG nomination.
I was sad that because Spencer was my favorite film of the year,
It's a good movie.
and a lot of people didn't like that one. But I'm just in love with the films of Pablo Larraín anyway. But
He's a creative, interesting filmmaker.
he's challenging.
Yeah. And it seems like whenever he puts out something in English, he puts out something in Spanish the same year. Because when he did Jackie,
Hmm.
he had a movie the same year, I think, about Pablo Neruda.
Oh, really? I
Yeah,
haven't seen that
we
one.
got a screener for it. I just didn't get around to
Hmm.
it. Yeah, he had two movies this year. He had
Which is
this,
why.
and he had the weird what you said, the weird heist movie.
Oh, Emma.
Yeah, that's his too.
Well, this slot that Belfast is in, this should have been Being the Ricardos, and I would have been shocked, and I was shocked when it wasn't, because Being the Ricardos is an infinitely better movie than this. This is a nice movie.
I I'm surprised Javier Bardem didn't get nominated for Being the Ricardos.
He did.
He did?
Hmm.
Oh. Well, I'm
All
surprised that he
three
did that.
actors, Nicole Kidman, Javier Bardem, and J.K. Simmons, all got nominated,
Right.
but
But
the film did not.
and I don't know. I was I was involved in being the Ricardos, but when it was over, I really didn't think about it a whole lot.
You thought about it a lot more than you thought about Belfast.
I forgot I was watching Belfast while I was watching Belfast.
Now that's kicking a puppy.
But I was
Okay.
enjoying it. It was like,
Okay. So let's move on to our second film, which is much better and not the movie that I thought I was actually going to like. And I had to jump through hoops to get to this one. It's called CODA.
this was fantastic.
It
I
was.
just finished this last night.
If you don't know
Wow.
CODA, it's a family drama. The title stands for Child of Deaf Adults.
Mhm.
Now, if you try to explain this movie to somebody, it's gonna sound like a Lifetime movie because you got this girl. She's a teenager, and she's actually, by the way, played by a teenager. Thank you very much.
Yeah, she
Um,
was 19 when they filmed that. Yeah.
Yeah, and because no, you notice how many movies they did cast teenagers, and they're like
Well,
25.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
they've been doing that. Did you ever see the Our Miss Brooks television show? They
they're
kept
all in their
they
30s.
kept the same actor that did the voice for whatever the squeaky voiced kid that was always with her, and
Yeah.
they kept the voice actor, and he was very clearly,
Yeah.
very clearly 35, 40 years old, hunching over, trying to look like a kid.
Hmm.
It was awful. But
Or The Breakfast Club. They're all in their 20s.
well,
They're
yeah.
all.
Well, I think if you get people in their very early 20s,
Hmm.
some people,
You can still catch it.
yeah. But like 21 Jump Street, I
Hmm.
love how in the movie uh, they're sent in, and the gym coach is looking at Chatham Tanning, and he's like, "Boy, you've got the muscle definition of a 28-year-old. My goodness, and you're only 18. Oh wow!" Like all of the clear signs that they are way too old to be there, and they poke fun at it. Um,
Well, she's a good actor.
she
And the
is.
great thing about this is that until about an hour into it, I really didn't know what this movie was going to be because it's telling two parallel stories. On the one hand, you have this family of mom, dad, and the son who are all deaf,
Hmm.
and then the daughter who can hear. And they're fishermen at Gloucester. And
I
they depend.
believe it's Gloucester.
Gloucester, I'm sorry.
We
I'm
don't
from Alabama.
we don't
Sorry.
want our Massachusetts listener to
Gloucester.
be
Sorry,
upset.
sorry, sorry. Our one Massachusetts listener, yes.
Or perhaps it's
Uh,
even Gloucester, but
Gloucester. Or I'm saying it as I read it. The But they're fishermen, and it's their livelihood.
Mhm,
And she is part of their business because she is their translator.
mhm. She's their translator everywhere.
Yeah, and they've had to start their own business because the local officials have put sanctions on their business that would basically keep them from making a living at this.
Yeah, they were required to have monitors every so often that would cost 800
Eight hundred
bucks
dollars
out of their own pocket.
daily.
They were mandatory to be there, but they were not covered. It's like
Right,
how do you do that?
right.
And they were giving them lower prices. They were cheating the deaf family
Yeah,
because he continuously gave them less than other people that you could hear getting better deals from the stand,
hmm,
but they
yeah.
couldn't. So it was
And
despicable. And they finally just, yeah, they break away
decide to sell their own stuff.
and they get like a co-op going.
Right. Um, the other story is she's still in high school, and it starts with she signs up very quickly for school choir, which she's never had a thought about, but she does it because the guy she
There's a cute
likes.
boy that's going into it, so she
Right.
goes too.
And she finds out, hey,
Well, no,
she can sing.
she says I sing all the time. She knew she could sing. She
Yeah.
sang on the boat. She sang all the time, and
But she never thought about this being a living. She never thought about this being a viable thing that she
well,
could do for
no,
her life.
because her whole life had been just fishing and talking for her parents,
Hmm.
which,
That,
as you get to notice, becomes very awkward in
yeah.
places like the
Hmm.
doctor's office.
Right.
Uh, that scene is hilarious.
They end up. What is it? They end up with
They
a
have jock itch, and
jock itch.
it passed to the wife played by Marley Matlin, um, and they're like, oh, my crotch is on fire and all of this, and then he says you can't have sex for 2 weeks, but she sides to them and tells them that they can never have sex again. They get all upset, and even still, when she says no, it's 2 weeks, it's like impossible. Really?
She's played by Marley Matlin. The mother's played by Marley Matlin, the first deaf actress ever nominated for the best actress for an Oscar
For an
for
Oscar,
anything.
she won
And her on-screen husband is Tony Kotsur, who is the second
yes
deaf
nominated
actor ever nominated
for this particular role for Best Supporting
Right,
Actor.
right.
And I really want him to win.
I do too. I do
Um,
too.
wha-
And he's really charming in this. He really is.
It's so. I love. You can see the kind of people they are, but don't get to be because
Mhm.
other people are
Right,
not willing to take the time to understand them.
right.
And and I like that by the end they've made those adjustments, and now they've got friends in the fishing community instead of just they're the deaf people.
Yeah.
They go out and do their own. They know them, they talk to them, but they don't socialize. They just go home and.
Mhm.
And when the
I
one
mean, what are they going to do?
well,
They.
when the kid decides to go, the older brother decides to go out for a beer with them, he's just sitting there.
And in your mind, you're thinking, who the hell makes fun of these people? I mean, really. And then you
Like
find out, yeah,
the girl. Well, but the girl that makes fun of oh, what's her name?
she's made fun of at school for having a deaf family.
Right. She's apparently when she started, um, she because she was hearing and she could talk, she could only sound like what she heard, and if her
Yeah.
parents or brother talked, it was well, because they'd never heard it, they don't really know how to form
Don't
the
know how to form
words.
vocal.
Right, or the mouth
Yeah.
movements and everything. Um, but she adjusted and got over that impairment.
And yet they make fun of her
But
at school. Oh
now,
my God.
but they for like having to go out and fish and for basically, I think they're poor shaming her.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. Is some of the stuff that they have in movies now, the kids bullying, all feels like it's the same bullying that was done 30 years ago,
Yeah.
and they just never bothered to update it for the movies?
Hmm.
Because every bullying thing I'm seeing, I'm like, that wouldn't really be a thing
Yeah.
now. There was something I was watching somewhere. New thing is Gen Z kids going after a kid for being gay or something. I was like, this is not realistic.
Yeah.
This is so not
Hmm.
realistic.
No,
It
it's
makes
not.
no sense at all. And it it was weird. I wish I knew what it was, but Ruby.
Ruby. And by the way, I want to mention an actor who did not get nominated and should have, and that was Eduardo Derbez, who plays her choir instructor,
Oh, I
who could have easily been in a lesser movie, could have easily been a gay stereotype, but he is not.
no, I hated that man for the first 20 minutes he was on the street.
You know, I did too. I was struggling with this movie for about the first 30 minutes.
I wasn't struggling with it, but when he started off being the way that he is, which is just very, he knows what he wants. Very,
And he
very
demands
yes.
it.
Um, all the way up until, he's mad at her for interrupting his meditation and all of this, but then he genuinely talks to her
Right.
and is
And he
like, okay,
realizes she's got a special talent.
you're the kid with the deaf family,
Hmm.
and and then I love what he said. She's like, I'm afraid I won't be any good. And he said, do you know what Bowie said about Bob Dylan? His
I love
voice,
this.
it was like sand and glue. He said, a lot of pretty voices have nothing to say.
I love that.
So it doesn't
God, I love
really
that.
matter. And
Mhm.
I fell in love with the character right then and there. And then when he proved to be one of the single most positive influences in her
Mhm.
life,
Yeah,
he
it's
subverted my
great.
expectations. I thought he was going to emerge as the quote unquote villain of the piece and have
Yeah.
him be the stumbling block. But it's not. The stumbling block is just life.
And was not going to be, or was not going to be the overbearing inspirational
Right,
teacher
right.
cliche. What I found interesting is this director. I've never heard of this director, Seon Heder. She is very, very, very slow to build this story
Yeah.
because about the hour mark, you figure out where these two parallel stories come together, and that is that she wants to go off to college,
Hmm.
and expand on this newfound sort of singing ability, this newfound ability that she has. But going off anywhere means that they will be losing their translator
Hmm.
because they can't afford to get one professionally.
Right. And basically, the mother doesn't want her to go away to school, to college in general, I guess, but away from the family because then they'll have to change what they do.
Right,
It's
right.
her mother is being so selfish. Like
And she's very honest because she
blatantly
says,
and unabashedly selfish about why.
but at the end of the movie, she's very honest. And Ruby asks her, um, "Were you upset when I was born and they found out I could hear?" And she says, "Yeah, I was,
Yeah,
because I was afraid that you
that
being able to
that
hear
we wouldn't be
would
able to
mean that I couldn't
connect.
relate to
Yeah,
you."
that we wouldn't be able to connect like her with her mother. Um,
They have a heart-to-heart moment with both the mother and the father that is both really touching.
you know,
Because at the end of the movie, it's beautiful
yeah,
because she sings a song to him and he touches her
yeah,
throat.
he's holding her throat to feel the vibra. Oh,
And the movie has earned
yeah.
that.
Now, what I love the most, the the parents have a wonderful relationship with each other, and the loving relationship they have filters down.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, and you know that they care about her
Hmm.
and love her, but yeah, they've got these other concerns.
Hmm.
And when what's it? Jackie Marley Matlin
Yeah.
is saying all these things, uh, the look on Frank's face is
Mhm.
just, and she says, "My baby's going away," and he said, "She was never a baby.
They've always been dependent on her.
She had to, speak and translate for them, probably as young as 5, 6, 7. Like
Mm.
that's just been her life, and
You can say that this movie is, as some critics have said, that this movie was kind of obvious. My feeling was, again, it's very slow to build. It's very slow to get where it's going. But in that time, you're building those relationships. That emotional payoff at the end is really beautiful because the movie has spent time. This movie's not very long. It's 112 minutes,
yeah,
and they
yeah,
don't waste a single moment of
no,
it. But it never feels like you're being manipulated. It's about deaf people, so your back kind of goes up immediately because you're thinking, okay, you're thinking TV movie.
right. But it's not manipulative. It's not
Mm-mm.
cloying. It's
She knows how to organize this story,
right.
and the performance by Tony Couture. I mean, he is marvelous.
Absolutely.
It's really really good.
The kid Leo, Daniel Durant, he's very good
Yeah,
too.
he is very good too. All these actors are really
Oh
good.
yeah.
They're very good. I've never seen these actors except for Marley Matlin. I've not seen these actors before.
Uh, yeah. Um, I think
Except Tony Couture. But Tony
Troy,
Couture, I found
Troy.
out. Troy Couture, excuse me.
He was
I
one.
found
He
out
was a Tusken
afterwards.
Raider doing the
Yeah,
sign language in The Mandalorian.
yeah, the gunfighter
Yeah.
episode 5. He was the Tusken that was doing the translation.
Hmm.
Um, I had to post that on Facebook immediately after I found that out because that is so
That
cool.
is cool.
But yeah, it's a very moving film.
It
It
is,
really
and it
is.
it earns all of its moments.
But can I tell you about a movie I'd like to move away from?
Don't look up.
And that's the movie we're going to talk about next. I will say this: don't look up. It's not the longest movie I've seen this year. I've
But
seen
it
of the
is the
nominees.
longest movie of the year.
I hated this movie. Oh my god, I hated
Oh.
this.
Do you know why I didn't like this movie? Because
I'll pick one.
there's
Okay.
there's about 35 to 40% of good movie in this
Yeah.
2.5 hour circle jerk of nothing. Look, I know that it was originally supposed to be about the environment. All
Yeah.
I kept seeing was pandemic stuff.
Yeah.
No masks. It's not real. Don't get to this. Don't do that.
Basically, it's a satire of Trump's reaction to COVID.
Right, but it was supposed to be about climate change.
But what it's
But
about at the end is he doesn't really even know what it's about. Let me
the
get
whole
through the.
thing just falls apart.
It starts with these two astrophysicists, played by Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer
Hmm.
Lawrence, and they're overjoyed because they've discovered a new comet. But then they are quickly alarmed because of two factors. One, it's the size of Mount Rushmore, or the size of Mount Everest, and
And two, it's
two,
coming right
it's on a
close.
collision course with
Yeah.
Earth, and it will collide with the Earth in, was it 6 months and 14 days.
Right.
And so the first thing they got to do is warn the world.
Hmm.
So they go to the White House and they decide to tell the White House staff, who regard it as basically inconvenient because, hey, it's an election year.
Right, right, right. It's just something that they're like, well, we don't really want to deal with this.
Yeah.
And
So don't tell the world.
right.
And then they go and they break the security rules and they tell the world anyway on a talk show that I have no idea why in the world they picked this talk show to go on when there are thousands of others
Well,
that would have taken this more
here's
seriously.
the thing. I think that this was supposed to be Good Morning America.
I thought it looked like Regis and Kathy Lee.
Right.
I know that.
It was a morning talk show those have some of the highest ratings
Yeah.
possible because a lot of people got in the habit of just turning those on and leaving them on while they're getting ready for work or,
Yeah.
and
It's that morning talk show where they're doing the cutesy little
right.
banter and oh, isn't it
So
fun? And it's just
all they're trying to do is cuten this up. And they
Rich.
keep
If you
trying
hear
to
this
say,
news, you're gonna drop the
right.
cute.
They keep trying to say, no, it's not cute. You should be worried about it. You should
Right,
be
and then
upset that this is happening. You and they're like, well, we're trying not to upset people. It's like they
you
should
need
be
to upset
upset.
people.
And they keep trying to, and because of that, it gets trivialized.
This is a problem because basically and then it becomes another satire on our childish dependence on social media and the fact that we won't break away from it. The problem is, and I would like to see a movie like this. How would the world respond to this? I've already seen it. It was called Last Night, and it was released in 1999. It was a Canadian film. And the problem with this movie is that it's a satire of our political climate and our social media climate, but it is told through characters who have about the maturity and wit of a 13-year-old who won't stop telling blowjob jokes.
Right. Like I Leonardo DiCaprio, Dr. Randall Mindy,
Yeah.
and Jennifer Lawrence, Kate Dibiasky. They're the only serious people in the movie.
Right. And when you get to about the hour and 15-minute mark of this movie, and he finally blows up, he goes back to that damn talk show.
He's on there all the time because he thinks that it's getting the cause a lot of press, but they think he's cute
When he
and funny.
finally
So
blows up, I'm thinking, okay, you should have done this about 15 minutes into the movie. This should have been your immediate
well,
reaction.
here's the thing.
What is wrong with you
The
people?
reason that this is all like this and the way that they're trying to push this under the rug, again, they the comet is an allegory for climate change.
Right.
It's just barreling down on us. There might be
And
things
we're not doing
there's
anything
things
about
that
it.
we might be able to do, but you have to commit to them now. Well, it's too far out. It'll cost too much. It'll do this, and then when it gets switched into no, let's not destroy it because there's trillions of dollars worth of material on that. There could be.
Right.
I love it how they're like, there might be, there's a
Mhm.
chance that there's this metal that we use for cell phones. So if we let this impact, we'll be able to mine it.
And all of this comes from this irritating character played by Mark Rylance,
This is the
who
worst.
I guess is supposed to be like Elon
He's
Musk or
supposed to be Steve Jobs with
Steve
autism.
Jobs. Yeah,
And I
and bad
found
teeth.
his performance uh, offensive,
Yeah.
ableist,
Mhm.
um,
Because
derogatory.
somebody calls him a businessman, he gets his feelings hurt.
Right, and he's like, oh, we have this algorithm that we ran, and I know how everybody's gonna die, and he says that like it's a party trick,
Right.
but then he doesn't want to tell people because that's upsetting information,
Yeah.
and the only reason that's there, this is what ticked me off about that, more than the kind of picking on autism a little bit for having like obsessive compulsive things. It's just there to set up a joke for the
At
very
the
end
very
of the
end.
movie that
Yeah.
isn't even all that funny.
The biggest issue with this movie is that he's running this satire and he's trying to have so many targets. The problem is that it's so all over the place and so disorganized and so unfun. That's the biggest problem with this movie is he forgot to make it funny.
Yeah.
And then in the last act, he tries to go for an emotional payoff that he must know he has not earned.
Right. Well, it's an Adam McKay film.
It's an Adam McKay film. He
And
made the film that we didn't like that got nominated called Vice,
and he made the other film that we kind of liked, but still
The
don't
Big
think it should have
Short.
gotten nominated. Big Short.
And this is a man who
That's what he.
started his
That's what he
career
won his Oscar
making.
on.
This is a man who built his career making Will Ferrell movies.
And digital shorts for SNL.
Right.
And that's not to knock him. And that's
Right.
not to say that he should stay in his lane and just do Talladega Nights and Step Brothers. I'm not saying that. He should be allowed to flex his wings and use the power that he's obtained over the years, that he's grown over the years, to get passion projects done. But when you assemble a huge budget movie
And a
the same
multi-million dollar cast.
in the same way that you organize the episodic Anchorman, your movies aren't going to work. Because his
This
stuff is
just
always
aggravating.
edited like it's a pastiche of scenes instead of a movie.
Yeah.
And that's fine for Talladega Nights and Step Brothers, and because the scenes are what you remember. You get a really good scene, and you remember, ooh, that escalated quickly.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, I have many leather-bound books.
Yes.
And you don't get that anymore from him because he's
Right.
trying too hard.
Hmm.
He wants to be taken seriously, so he's out there whining, "Take me seriously."
Yeah.
And they are, but I don't know why.
And it's just, again, you put together as a movie about an issue that we know exactly when the world is going to end, and you know that this is not how the general population is going to respond. And you know, because he's sitting in a bar, DiCaprio's sitting in a bar, and he starts talking about it, and somebody says, "Can you tell us what's going on? Because our kids are scared to death." And I'm thinking, okay, there's your reality.
Right.
That proves that there's reality in this.
Yeah, and see, he's trying to go in two different directions.
Mm-hmm. He's trying to do too much.
So he's trying to do he's splitting off from main point, and he writes a script that is equal parts Marx Brothers and Stanley Kramer.
Right.
And those two things don't go together because
Right.
the Marx Brothers were going for the joke.
Mm-hmm.
Every time, every scene, every line was about the joke. The story
Right.
did not matter at all. I still can't follow Duck Soup, and I've seen it 50 times.
And it's brilliant.
And I don't care. I don't care that I can't tell you what it's about.
Mhm.
But I'll watch it till
We did an episode,
exactly.
and we couldn't,
I still
couldn't decide what it was
I
about.
still don't know what it's about, and I don't care. I get lost in the plot somewhere around just before they go to war. I always forget why they go to war.
Maybe that's what he thought he was doing. Maybe that's what Adam McKay thought he was doing. He thought he was just doing complete anarchy. My thing is, either go for reality or go for total anarchy. You can't have it both ways.
Right. He's trying to do controlled anarchy, and it doesn't. And his movies are suffering as a result. I think he could be great. He's not letting himself.
I love the rundown of the Rotten Tomatoes listing for this. It's like Belfast got like an 89, and CODA got like an 85, and then Drive My Car got like a 98. Don't Look Up got like a 50.
I don't understand. I knew
I don't know why this is nominated. I really don't. I think it's just because of the cast.
I think it's because of the cast. I think it's because Adam McKay is, for some reason, an Oscar darling now.
I don't know why.
I don't either. I'm sure he's a nice guy. And again, all three of these
Big Short was the movie that felt like it was put together with some care.
Yeah.
Vice felt like it was put together from the one idea at the end and then written backwards.
Yeah, Vice felt like it was a one joke premise that they never actually got to tell.
Right. This movie feels like I want to shit all over the right, and I want to shit all over our dependence on social media. But he didn't really. He just kept writing jokes.
Right.
He didn't have an idea.
There's a movie in this
somewhere,
but I think it needs to be about 45 minutes shorter and about 3 subplots lighter.
Right.
The whole thing.
The movie needs to calm down.
Right. There's just too much going on, and 3/4 of it does not matter to the story. And I'd be okay with that if it mattered to the characters. They don't.
But you can't relate to anybody in this movie.
There is useless scene after useless scene in this movie that is repetitive, redundant, and yes, I know those are the same thing. That's part of the joke. Yeah. It's just they just stop. They won't stop giving you the information you know and refuse to give you the information you want to know.
Right.
The whole movie. And if they didn't have... Maybe you can explain this to me. Why did Mindy have an affair with Brie Eventry, Kate Blanchett, the co-host on the morning show? Why did that happen?
I can only think that it was possibly to keep himself on the show. I have no idea. She's playing a character. Basically, she's playing any number of those Fox News anchor women.
She's a wolf.
Yeah, she's a wolf. She's a cougar.
Yeah. Now,
and wearing red, by the way, bright red.
Here's. But what I mean, I know why the character got into that situation.
Why did he get into it?
He couldn't turn her down. Right. Why did Adam McKay get into it?
Right.
Because...
What does this have to do with anything?
Because the whole thing, it starts off with just a fling. And if he had just slept with her once, and then I would have been, okay, I get why that happened. Right.
But there's this whole thing about it ruins his family, and he comes back together at the end, and it's going for an emotional payoff, and it doesn't work.
It becomes nonsense because, yes, he leaves his family, they divorce, and he's living it up with her, and then she dumps him, and he goes crawling back to his wife.
Melanie
Linsky, who I'm really happy she's having her own renaissance. She's showing up at everything now, and I have always loved her.
She started with the movie with Kate Winslet, Heavenly Creatures.
Yeah. So she's
kind of been around the edges.
Yeah, she's been around for as long as Kate Winslet, and she's only now showing up. She's getting to be a familiar character face. But, like, he just goes back, and he's like, I'm sorry, I don't know what I was thinking. Oh, you're forgiven. Like, the whole thing is resolved so quickly that none of it mattered.
Well, being that they have 2 weeks to live, I kind of get that.
Right.
I mean, I'll give it.
I get that, too, but it eradicated the need for it. Because all of the things that happened...
There wasn't any purpose behind it.
The only thing that happened during their relationship was a montage about their relationship.
Right.
that extended the movie by 20 minutes.
And then he goes for this emotional payoff that is then followed by a comedy scene.
Yeah,
An emotional payoff that doesn't work, followed by a comedy scene that doesn't work.
This thing is more uneven than the worst road in the United States. This is it's up and down and up and down, and again, for me, I think that there's a pretty solid 105-minute movie that could be cut out of this, cut from this. But what we have is not worth the hype.
This ain't it.
This is not worth any of what it has received.
Let me tell you what is worth what it has received, and that is our next film.
It's my favorite fucking movie of the year.
Your favorite movie of the year. And I'm going to put you in the driver's seat for this one, because this is Drive My Car.
Yes, I
only recently saw.
Yeah, I saw.
And it's right up your alley, too, because it's
a
3-hour Japanese
movie. It's a 3-hour Japanese movie. Where the actual...
And if you've been listening to this show, you'll know what that means.
The actual plot of the story, the actual story, doesn't happen until the last half hour of the movie.
Right.
Everything else is character, mood, and tone.
Because I'm sitting there and I'm watching it and I'm like, this movie is brilliant. But I'm ready. The last 30 minutes, I'm like, I'm ready for it to get somewhere.
And then it does.
It's building slow. If I say CODA built slowly, this one takes 2.5 hours to get where it's going.
Now,
it's very, very... this approach does not happen in an American film at all.
No.
No way.
There were... The closest thing to an American film that we have that would build like this would be maybe the first two Godfather movies and 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Especially the second one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. This is adapted and directed by Ryusuke Hamaguchi, who's an up-and-coming Japanese director. He's got two previous features.
Happy Hour, which was 5 hours long.
Happy Hour is 5.5 hours long. Asako 1 and 2, it's apparently 2 movies in one. That's only like an hour and a half. Or 2 hours.
Not believe in keeping it short.
But there's another one that came out apparently this year that I did not see, called Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy. That is a 2-hour movie.
I'm going to hand this story to you to try to explain.
Okay.
By the way, this show, you should know, I should have said this at the top. We don't care about spoilers. No. If you haven't seen the movie, there are some tick marks down at the bottom where you can skip to the next movie.
So, the story, there's a 45-minute pre-credit sequence.
45 minutes. That's ballsy.
That sets up, I know, half of the movie. Well,
and it's not even a third of this movie.
No, it's not. But it would be half of a regular movie.
Mm-hmm.
Just as a pre-credit sequence. And that in and of itself, where that could have gone if the wife didn't die, would have been an equally phenomenal movie.
The first 40 minutes of this movie are a great short film.
Yeah, it's a wonderful kind of domestic drama where you kind of see that the two people are happy together, but there are unspoken problems.
Yeah, he's Yosuke.
Yeah.
He is a celebrated stage director.
Mm-hmm. And actor.
She is an actor. She is a screenwriter
and playwright.
Whose artistic yearnings, whenever she has an idea for stories, she illustrates them out loud during and after sex.
Wasn't that one of the coolest
So
parts when they were building that story, and each time they would sleep together, there was a little bit more, and you could, and then they were sitting in the car building this story. That was
they're wrapped up in their marital bliss
quote unquote.
and the physical marital bliss. And this is where she, for lack of a better term, gets the creative juices flowing. And
However, she has not limited this creative process to Yatsuki.
right, she is.
She is
There are other partners.
right. She usually goes with like the lead actor of whatever she's writing, whatever's in production at the time, and then she moves on.
Including Koji.
Yes, and I'm still not sure what their relationship exactly was. But yeah, he was definitely one of the people she took in. Um,
What you realize is that the marriage is a creative partnership,
right. And
but it is not a personal one.
so he knows this.
Mm-hmm.
He's known it for
It says
years.
nothing.
And he's finally going to confront her about it.
Mm-hmm.
And she wants.
No, she says to him, she says, "I want to talk to you about something later tonight."
Right. So you're all geared up for what that's going to be, and he walks in, and she's dead of a brain hemorrhage. Dead. Gone.
That's your opening. That's your opening.
45 minutes, and the only other character you've been invested in is dead. And the one with the answers to everything that you have questions to is gone.
And you get to spend the rest of the movie with him trying to figure this out.
Years later.
2 years later, he is in Hiroshima.
Doing a production of Uncle Vanya. Can I talk about his directorial style? His stage style? Okay. I'm gonna.
Yeah.
What he does, he casts the actor to the role regardless of what language they're speaking.
Because
Or
they're speaking different languages.
Right. So there's Korean, Chinese, Japanese,
Sign language.
Korean Sign Language. There's Cantonese and Mandarin, and but you can still follow what's happening if you don't speak those languages. That's fucking brilliant.
The more you know Uncle Vanya, the more resonance this story has.
Oh yeah, especially when he makes the kid Vanya.
Yeah. The kid is Koji is amazingly the same kid who he caught having sex with his wife.
Right. And now
Koji knows this because you could see the look on his face. He knows who this man is.
They met each other.
Yeah.
It was backstage somewhere. He met her. They met each other.
Koji, who drops out of this story in the weirdest subplot. It's so strange. It comes in almost like it's out of another movie.
Yeah, like there is another movie going on for Koji because something happened that he was in a relationship with a minor, and
I thought it was the guy who was taking pictures.
Yes, but the reason the guy was taking pictures was because he was an up-and-coming...
He's not very good at his job. He's standing 3 feet away with his phone just clicking pictures.
He's paparazzi, but he's not... So he's not being pursued because he's famous. He's being pursued because he's becoming famous and there was a really, really huge scandal that
Yeah.
might have jail time attached to it.
Hmm.
So he leaves Tokyo
Yeah.
and goes to Hiroshima, where uh, Kafku Yusuke is doing Uncle Vanya, and he auditions for that, knowing, talking to him, saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, your wife died." Basically coming up to him like he was a close friend of hers,
Hmm.
and trying to talk to him about his wife.
Right. Right.
So
It's really uncomfortable.
he's escaping this scandal. And every now and again, you see people pointing their cameras, and he's like just pushing people away because of this scandal.
Hmm.
So he gets this paparazzi that is getting him after this dinner, and he chases the guy,
Up the flight of
beats
stairs.
him to death,
Hmm.
and comes back and rejoins the group.
I love how the cops arrest him because they come in during rehearsals, and he's standing at the table, and Koji is on the stage, and he says, "Can I talk to you?" He says, "Can I talk to you in private?" And Koji says, "No, we'll talk here." "Okay, well, see, there was an incident."
Basically, yeah, there was the
There was an incident.
and he
You're under
he went to
arrest.
the hospital, but then he died in the hospital, and you're under arrest.
I'm not laughing at what
No, no.
happened. I'm laughing at the way it's
And
done.
the amazing thing is, he doesn't try to run. He doesn't deny
uh,
it. He just goes, yeah, yeah,
well, he's well known. Where is he going to
right.
go? You
Now,
know.
all of that ties into the story
Mhm.
that she was coming up with Yusuke about,
And it's also tied into the fact that he won't play Uncle Vanya,
right, even though
despite the fact that he knows the
he
role
is
by
quite
heart.
celebrated
Hmm.
as Vanya in Japan. Um, and he he's trying to get away, and I think there would be a really good movie with what's his name?
Koji.
Koji. I think that could be a good movie too, because there
Mhm.
is a side thing going on. There's side, like, the driver, which,
Mhm.
okay, I'll explain the title. Um, the the title,
This is the main point of the
the
story.
the reason that it's called Drive My Car, and the reason that this man gets shaken out of his routine. Um, his routine is he pops in a cassette tape of his wife running lines with him, and he runs the lines back as kind of
Hmm.
like a preparation. She'll do
Yeah.
all the other parts, and he'll just do his, and that's how he preps for a role
Hmm.
while he's driving. And it's an older car. He takes care of it. It's one of those, I'm the only one that really knows how to drive this car, because you've got to.
Because you know what? If I'm going to have a little bit of introspection about my life, I might as well do it in the front seat of an '87
Right.
Saab.
So
Sorry, I just.
he the festival then says, "Okay, here's your driver," and he's like, "I don't want a driver," and they're like, "Yeah, you have to have a driver because one of the talents last year, 2 years ago, or 5 years ago, or whatever, uh, killed somebody in a drunken car wreck, and now they're not. Now the artists are not allowed to drive themselves. That's not negotiable."
Right.
That was just it, and the relationship that he builds with this young woman that's driving his car,
Hmm.
and the way that has to take him out of his bubble which he is
Yeah,
firmly ensconced
because
in.
she builds a relationship with him that is very, very slow to build. This whole movie is a slow to build because he is dealing with unfinished business with Otu, his
Mhm.
wife, because she
Which he
died
can
before
never finish.
he can never finish. She is dealing with issues, which we find out late in the film, with her mother who
Hmm.
died in a mudslide that destroyed their
Hmm.
house. And we find out very, very late in the film that she could have rescued her mother, but she did not.
Hmm.
And she didn't want to
Right.
because they had a very volatile relationship.
Hmm.
The emotional payoff for sitting there for 2.5 hours
Hmm.
drops on you finally in the last half hour. You are rewarded
Right.
for all of this
Because
building tension.
not only do you start to get her story, but you start to get a picture of the wife and what might have been discussed when he's
Hmm.
talking with Koji, because
Right.
they're forming their own very, very weird bond,
Yeah.
and they talk about her both very intimately,
Yeah.
but Koji's really trying to not sound like he was intimate.
So much of the dialogue in this film is hanging in the
Yeah,
air.
yeah.
It is not about what is said, it is about what is not
What's
said. Now, I have a
yeah.
question for you. There is a scene at the end when they finally arrive at her
Hmm.
hometown, and they're standing on an embankment and there's snow on the ground. And they're looking down the embankment, and you see the top of the house sticking out of the
Hmm.
snow, and it's
Hmm.
collapsed. I have to ask you this. When they're looking at this house, were you thinking the same thing I was thinking?
Which is
Is the mother still in there? Because that's immediately what I kept thinking. I mean, it's an emotional payoff, and I kept thinking it wouldn't leave my mind. I kept thinking, did they actually?
here's what I can say to that. Um,
Sorry, it's
because if they went into the house to try to
no. I'm not saying they
no no no
should.
no
I was. It was just on
what
my
what I'm
mind. It was
what I'm
just
saying is if they had gone into the house and properly demolished it and everything, but the way that it was just left sitting there,
mhm.
I would not be surprised if that was her mother's final resting place.
I was thinking that. I was thinking, it's buried under snow,
No, it was buried under
um,
mud.
buried under mud. It's now buried under snow, and that's all I could. That's what I kept thinking about while I was looking at this house. It's like it does because it doesn't look like it's been touched.
Right, and in natural disasters like that, sometimes they don't.
Right, especially especially the. But it is so
Yeah.
powerful when you get to the end because it's such an emotional payoff. It is a slow build of a slow build, and this movie is absolutely this director is refusing to tell you where the story is going. He
he
wants you to follow
he
him
wants you to go on the journey with him and the characters, and boy do you.
because this is not a movie. It doesn't it has the patience and intelligence to tell the story as it
Hmm.
unfolds rather than tell you what happened, well, tell you where it's going at the very beginning and then just get there.
Right. He points you in a direction in the first 45 minutes, and then rips the rug out from under you and basically starts a new story.
Hmm.
It's like that was like the Hotel Chevalier short with Natalie Portman and Jason Schwartzman at the beginning
Hmm.
of the Darjeeling Limited. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, exactly.
um, did you need to see all of that? Actually, no, because they allude back to it enough that if that wasn't there, if he had had to cut
Hmm.
that, the movie still would have worked.
Yeah,
that's what I absolutely adore about it. This movie, I love it. Give it everything. Let's move on. But aside from Give It Everything, I'm really happy that it was nominated for Best Picture.
I am too.
I'm happy because you. It made you see it then, and more people are going to see it now, and that elates me to no end. I
I'll
loved
say
this
this:
movie.
we're not done with this film. We're not
No,
done with this film. I actually want to find more stuff from him. I just got to find the
it's actually
time.
on the Criterion Channel. The Happy Hour and Asco 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Those are both on the Criterion Channel right now.
Um,
Because
but
Janus
it's
Films was a producer of
yeah.
my car. So this will be on the correct Criterion Collection. I can almost guarantee it.
This was remarkable in that it's from a director who's just he's so deliberate and so patient. I love a film that is beautifully constructed. Not just a well-told story, not just a good production design, but a story that is constructed. It's the best constructed film I've seen probably since Greta Gerwig's Little Women,
That was a good one.
in which you can see that the construction of the drama and the performances are all meticulously placed, and this film artist is taking their time to really put things together.
He wants you to
Now, I
know
want to
these
tell you,
characters.
he wants you to know these characters, and he wants you to feel for them and travel with them. It is a road picture, and it's a long journey. Now, I'm going to tell you, this was your favorite film of the year. The next film was not on my. It was not my favorite film of the year, but it was among my 10 best.
Our next film.
Because if we
Our next
talked
film is
about
my second favorite.
because if we talked about how, let me tell you something. If we talked about how Adam McKay can do so much better, I think both of us agree that Denis Villeneuve
Oh my god!
can do no wrong.
This movie
was magnanimous.
Dune
This is
Part
Dune.
1.
Part 1.
Is
Oh my god.
phenomenal. I watched this.
Right?
I watched this twice in the opening weekend on HBO, HBO Max, and I. This is my favorite performance from Timothée Chalamet. I usually want to punch him at least once in a movie. Normally,
And he was in Don't Look Don't he was in Don't
he
Look
was,
Up.
and I wanted to punch him during it. There's always just like one part of the movie that he's in that just whatever his character does just makes me want to punch him in the face. He has a very punchable face. And this is the first movie that I didn't want to punch him in the face at any point during the movie.
This and his performance in Call Me by Your Name.
Oh, yeah, that was regrettable because Armie Hammer and all of that.
Yeah. I read the book Dune when I was in junior high school.
I've never read the book.
And I read it several times. And that was after David Lynch's atrocity, because I really wanted to see why this book was so celebrated.
So, I'll say this, just to jump in quick here. I haven't read the books. I didn't even see the David Lynch movie until sometime during the pandemic.
He just had to make things worse. Why?
Yeah, it was sometime in 2021 because that's when HBO Max finally launched and everything.
Yeah.
That's when I saw it. So I'm sure you were very, very, very upset with his.
I kept watching this, and the thought that kept going through my head, I was like, I kept wishing this were Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
This is the movie that Episode 3 should have been. All you got to do is just shift the story elements, and it's all there. And this is a Star Wars movie. And it's interesting that they managed to build a universe with characters that are interesting, not just the production design, which is phenomenal, They care about the images they're putting on screen. They care about the story they're telling. And it's all basically to put the characters into a trap.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what the story
Right,
is.
but setting it up for
And building those
right
factions.
so that there's a savior figure,
Right.
which is Paul Atreides, Timothy Chalamet.
When you get to the end of this, you know everything you need to
Mm-hmm.
know. And it's all a lot of complicated material.
Mm-hmm.
Why are their eyes blue? Why is there spice? Who are these guys in the metal suits? Who is this guy? The Stellan, the Skarsgård character. Who is this? I loved just the imagery. I was as dazzled by this as I was by the Blade Runner
Mm-hmm.
sequel, because he does things. I remember the
Villeneuve's
Baron.
Villeneuve's visual sense is off the charts,
The
amazing.
Baron in the original was just flying around,
Really, really badly.
and it looked
It was
stupid.
clearly on a blue screen, and
Clearly on
yeah, and
wires.
you could tell that he wasn't in the same room as the other people when he was
Right.
talking. It was bad.
This one, he rises out of that oil,
Yeah.
and he's got this long train on his gown, so it looks like he's 15 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
It's this ominous,
Mm-hmm.
terrifying looking image,
Mm-hmm.
and you realize what they're up against. And you know who everybody is.
Yeah. By the end of it, there's no confusion. You
No,
find
not
out
at
who,
all.
like, all the stuff at whatever the house before they go to the spice planet,
Yeah,
when the day that they're leaving, and they're doing
hmm
basically you're getting the introductions as they're going to the new adventure.
yeah,
If you took that chunk out
hmm
and expanded it just a little bit, it could be the first 10 episodes of a show,
right.
because you're learning the master at arms, you're learning the training, the king, the queen, the prince, the lord, the lady, and the lad, and the people who were influences on Paul,
hmm
outside of his father, and
And the burden that is put on him.
you get all of this so fast and so clearly that I do not understand why exposition can't always be like this.
And it's funny, as I mentioned episode 3, I'm sitting there going, I'm watching Timothy Chalamet as Paul, and he's struggling with his position, his place of what he has to do, and he's so young. And I'm thinking, this is what Anakin should have been going
Yeah.
through. And I'm thinking, this is, they put him, and by the way, cast an actor who actually does look 16.
Mm-hmm.
It's not Kyle MacLachlan, who's 35. But it's so
Oh,
beautifully
Kyle
done.
MacLachlan was only 25 then.
Oh, yeah, 25 playing 16
Yeah,
again.
I'm not saying that makes it better. I'm just saying he was a lot younger.
And he has an emotional reaction. Timothy Chalamet has an emotional reaction to what's happening.
He actually has a range.
He actually has a range.
I love Kyle
Kyle
MacLachlan.
MacLachlan was not allowed to have a range.
No. See, I
But
think
I
that the
just
first one was limited by a really bad script.
Yeah.
That tried to condense way too much into. I mean,
They were trying to make 6 different movies.
right. And that would have been fine if they were all 6 feature-length movies that were Dune Part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. But he's trying to smush what is, in the book, generations of information
hmm
into
Yeah.
2.5 hours and make the story clear. And man, that original one is about as clear as mud. I liked it well enough
They had to re-establish it for television and have an opening narration just so you know what the hell was
Well,
going
yeah,
on.
because when they originally put it in the theaters, they gave you like this booklet. Now, I wasn't alive for this, but they gave you well, I was, but I was little. Give you a
You were a child.
booklet that you would basically have to read before the movie started, and it was like
Hmm.
50 pages
Yeah,
of so that you would understand what was going on.
that is point one to know that the director has not done his job.
Right, because if you have a reading assignment that you need to complete before you understand a movie,
Right,
your movie isn't where it needs to be.
right.
That's just it.
I I was so I didn't get to see this in the
Yeah,
theater.
me either.
This movie, the success of this movie has been crippled by by the pandemic,
But it was
and
still a
still
major,
a hit.
major force when it came out. I was pleased that so many people were watching it.
Every dollar of this movie's on the
Oh yeah,
screen. I mean, every
oh yeah.
dollar.
Uh, Jason Momoa is
Hmm.
wonderful. Zendaya is fantastic.
Oscar Isaac is
Oh
great.
man, even Rebecca Ferguson is great.
You know,
I mean,
Zendaya, who could do no wrong in
oh
my eyes.
no, she's amazing. I love her.
This
Josh Brolin is wonderful. Javier Bardem.
Josh Brolin, whose character in the books, his main trait was that he was always singing. Thank you for not having Josh Brolin sing. I'm good with that. I'm good with that being gone. I'm fine with that.
Um,
You know?
I I love Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah,
He's
we both
he's
do.
my favorite contemporary filmmaker. Um,
He made the Blade Runner sequel. He did Arrival. He did Prisoners, which we really liked.
Arrival is what put me on his bandwagon.
Yeah,
I
Blade Runner is what put me on his.
loved Arrival
Mhm.
so much.
Because he has a visual palette that fits with the story he's telling. He doesn't forget to tell you this because a lot of directors there's so much going on visually that the story doesn't really seem to matter to them.
He lets you understand the story on your own.
Right.
He does not hold your hand,
Mm-mm.
but he also does not make it confusing for you to need your hand held.
Right.
Like he's not a straightforward I'm going to tell you what this is and then it's going to happen filmmaker. You have a ride to go on when you're in a Villeneuve film. But
It's the
it's
same we
so
started talking about.
clear.
It's the same we were talking about Drive My Car. It's like it's intelligent enough to tell the story as it goes along, and you get caught up because it is so well written.
Yeah.
I got to the end of this movie and I was like, okay, I feel like I have been through
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And it was the same feeling that I get when I read a really
Hmm.
great book.
I loved Dune. Like
I love Dune.
amazing. Like yeah, second favorite of the year.
So we go from we loved to we really liked. Let's move on to a movie that wasn't quite as impressive.
Yeah, not even
Uh,
remotely, but
King Richard.
yeah.
Although I have to say this, I'm gonna say something I've never said before in my life, and that is Will Smith.
Yeah. Yeah. He gives a really he's earned his nomination for this movie.
Hmm. Yes.
Um, but his performance has also earned this movie virtually every other nomination except for the supporting actress because she also really did a great job. Uh,
Yeah, there's good performances in this movie besides Will Smith, but he's the one you notice because honestly, I have always found his dramatic performances rather to be a little bit laughable.
See, the problem is,
Because
I always find his performances in dramas to be very good. But the movies themselves are so bad that nothing he does, and the scripts just, he does what he can with them.
I didn't like Ali. I never saw Pursuit of Happiness. What was
I
the other
didn't
one?
see Pursuit of Happiness
Oh
either.
God, Collateral Beauty. We did an episode on that.
Yeah, we did.
And the one where he played that one where he played the South African doctor.
Concussion.
Concussion. That was really bad.
Yeah, that one was not good at all.
But this, and I saw the trailer for this. I was like, oh no. I was like, I didn't want to see it. I waited, and then it left HBO Max, and then it got nominated for an Oscar, and then I thought, okay, now I have to see it. So I actually went to the theater to see this.
I watched their screener copy, I think.
Yeah. Well, our screener copies lately have they're time coded.
Some of them have expiration dates. We're still in some of those time windows for the digital ones, but others have elapsed.
Which is killing me with Cyrano, because I miss Cyrano. And now it
You didn't
comes
get
out,
the disc?
I didn't get the disc. I got the I didn't get the disc. I just got the screener link, and it expired. Yeah, I never got that one. Nope, never got it.
Yeah. The MGM stuff came, the UA stuff came. I got this and House of Gucci and Die Another Day and
No Time to Die.
No Time to Die, whatever the hell it was.
Yes, the new James Bond picture. Yeah. But yeah, that was not in it.
Yeah, I got those 4 physical ones, so I was pretty happy about that.
Well, then it came. It's in theaters.
Yeah.
But not here.
Oh,
No, of course not.
Of course not. Why would it be?
But I'm making a pilgrimage this year to try and see everything that I can. It's proving to be a lot harder than I thought it would be. Because a lot of the short films are just not out there.
Yeah.
Some of them are on streaming platforms, but a lot of the short films are just not out there.
Some of the usually the best way for me to see specifically short documentaries, Netflix has oodles of them.
Yeah.
That's the only way I got to see the best short form documentary a few years ago called Period, End of Sentence. It was about sanitary napkins in India.
Yeah.
It was really good. That was the only one I got to see because it was on Netflix.
Yeah.
So.
I did see one, and I recommend it highly. It's called The Queen of Basketball. And it's about, I forget her name, forgive me. She was a basketball player in the 60s and 70s. But she could go no higher because there really wasn't a place for her to go. She was invited to the NBA, but by that time she was married and had a family, so she couldn't really do that. But it's really, really good. Because the entire thing is narrated by her.
Oh, cool.
And but it's really good. It's called The Queen of Basketball. But
Hey.
King Richard.
Yeah.
King Richard. I will tell you, it's not a great film, but it's a very good film.
Yeah, I mean it's not a
because
standout, but it's good enough.
It's about, I mean, of course, this is about Richard Williams, the father of Venus and Serena. And what's interesting is it doesn't focus on them.
No.
We already know their story. We already know about them. We're interested in him because it's this man who basically works himself to death.
Yeah.
To not just provide for his wife and his 5 children. A lot of these children, which are not his. But I mean, what is it? He's working 2 jobs. He's got bad feet, a bad back.
At
He's
least,
just,
and his wife is working 1 or 2 jobs.
His wife is working 2 jobs.
Or she's a nurse, I think, or something.
And he pushes these girls. to be better than their best. And I mean, it's the 1980s, and they're living in Compton,
Mm-hmm.
so there's a lot of pitfalls that they can fall into. One of which he does,
Yeah.
because there's a whole subplot at the beginning of the movie where he's trying to protect one of the girls who's not his daughter.
Right. The eldest
And
of the clan.
right,
Tundi.
Tundi, and she's being kind of accosted by these neighborhood predators. And when he tries to stand up, they stand up for her. They beat him up
Mm-hmm.
twice, and
Really viciously.
so very viciously. And then he steals a 45 from work to go and kill them. And he goes stalking the guy, finds him in front of a liquor store, and as he's going to cross the street to shoot him,
Yeah.
a drive-by happens.
Drive-by happens and takes him out. It's beautiful.
Well, that took care of itself.
Beautiful serendipity. It all worked itself out in the end.
It just happened, you know. But you see what he's willing to do to protect these girls.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even though it's not his daughter. Still, I mean, but he's also a little bit nuts, because there are times in the movie where the other characters are just looking around going, are you out of your mind?
Right.
He turns down a $6 million contract, I think it was with Nike. And he turns down this contract with Nike, and it's like, everybody's like, are you nuts? And then later it turns into $12 million.
Yeah. Yeah, he played it in just a way. The thing about this character is that what I got out of it is that he is both incredibly brilliant and stupid lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way that he gambled on a lot of these offers should not have worked out the way that they did.
And the way he pushes these coaches who are doing this for a favor.
Right.
And I mean, he goes to this white country club. He sits down to talk to these millionaires, and he says, "Thank you for taking off your hoods."
Which I thought was hilarious, and if I had been sitting at that table at that time, I probably would have just lost it.
No, but they're all sitting there with their mouth open. They don't know how to respond.
Right, and
like,
he's just telling a joke, sort of.
Yeah.
And yeah, they don't. I guess they don't know how to take some things in stride.
But it's like, you know, we're offering you millions and millions of dollars. It is kind of an unwise joke.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting portrait of this man who just will not give up.
Right.
It's wonderful.
No matter what he's told, no matter what gets in front of him. The thing that bothered me is just the fact of his overbearing parental style.
It does get repetitive.
It gets repetitive. It gets... And just... It feels invasive. Mm-hmm. Like, it feels like they don't have their own lives. They're living his dream. And now they've taken it and they have become the greatest tennis players that have ever lived.
Right.
And they obviously want to be doing what they're doing. They wouldn't be as good if they didn't.
Yeah.
But that sense that they never really had the choice,
mm-hmm.
and they had to fall in love with it or they would just be miserable, mm-hmm. really upsets me. And does not push me in the direction of he's a great man. It pushes me in the direction of he didn't really know children and he had other people live out his dreams.
And also, there are at least two that I can think of very Oscar clip moments.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And one of them is when the social worker, they send, by the way, the whitest, blondest social worker to his house. I think it was her first day on the job. because the next door neighbor has called Child Protective Services on them,
Because she thinks
and
that
he
he's
has
being abusive in his parental style.
and her daughter is working the street, working the street corner,
Mm-hmm.
and the other was in the kitchen with the wife. Now that one is great because it's her moment. It's the one time she really gets to hold a scene. But it's a little Oscar clip.
Yeah,
It's
and
still too
what's
Oscar clip for me.
how do you is it ingenue?
I don't
Ingenue
know.
Ellis?
I don't.
Um,
Do you know who else?
that's what it looks like.
Yeah, she's nominated.
She is she's wonderful in the other things that I've seen her in too. She was great in Lovecraft Country. Uh,
Which I haven't seen.
she played Hippolyta, the uh, I think wife of an uncle or something like that. She was wonderful in that. There was one episode that was entirely devoted to her that was just magical, uh, and I really like her, and I'm happy that she's been recognized because
Mm-hmm.
this is the kind of movie that you would expect. I'm s- I'm surprised it got as many as it did. I expected Will Smith to be nominated, and that's it.
Yeah, I expected it to get about as many nominations as like Tragedy and Macbeth. Tragedy and Macbeth got 3 nominations. I expected, it got a lot more. I think didn't it get more than that? I don't know how many got nominated, but
King Richard or
um,
Macbeth?
or King Richard,
King
because
Richard.
I know it got these 3.
It is nominated for 6 Academy
Okay, yeah,
Awards.
that's probably more than it deserves, but
Probably.
I would say
I
if
don't.
you nominated just those performances, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, yeah, but it's also song,
Hmm.
original screenplay,
Hmm.
and editing.
Yeah,
None of which particularly stood out to me.
editing, really?
Yeah, I know. Like some of those matches were pretty tightly cut, but I wouldn't have nominated it for an Oscar over.
It's the invisible category, huh?
Well, but see, it's also
Um,
one of the most important because
yeah,
it is what defines filmmaking.
right. And it's the whole reason for the controversy right now. Where they've cut eight of the categories off of
Well,
the show,
they said that
and
they're going to do them ahead of time and cut the footage in throughout the night,
mhm,
so we'll
yeah,
get to see it, but we won't get to see it
yeah,
live, and they'll edit the speeches and all that kind of stuff.
right.
Um, which
It's what it's going to be.
like
What it's going to end up being is
clearly
it's going to end up
they
being
were the problems and not the overall unfamiliarity with movies and stuff like that the cost
what's
the
going to end up
ratings.
happening is it's going to be a 20-second bit.
Yeah.
They'll cut it in as a 20-second bit, so you don't get the nominations, the envelope, and all of that, which I think is still disrespectful.
Oh yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, because especially editing. Because look, if you didn't have editing, every movie and TV show that you watch would be longer than the Oscar show.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah. And you know, I think I mean the Grammys do probably 9/10 of their awards
Yeah, but they have
off.
like how many?
They
They
have
have
like a
hundreds
million
of categories.
categories.
Yeah. See,
They
the
have
Oscars only have 24 categories.
right, right, and yeah, you're not getting best picture comedy like you're getting best hard rock album.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's separate from album
Best
of the
R&B
year and
concept album.
right. And then there's the whole Latin Grammys that just it's just that whole genre by itself.
Right.
Which I mean, if they're going to do that, they should do that for like every branch of music. But
Right.
whatever. I think it was because
It's a good
there was that
movie.
Latin movie explosion or Latin music
I, wa-
explosion. But yeah, it's a
I
decent
want to
movie.
tell you. I want to tell you though. I'm glad I saw it in the theater. Because the scene at the end when Venus is sitting there with the hairdresser and they're trying to figure out what to do, and then all of a sudden they cut to her coming down the hall. It's her first professional match.
Mm-hmm.
And she has the famous white beads.
Mm-hmm.
There was like applause in my theater. And I was like, oh, I missed that. I so missed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad I saw it in the theater. I'm glad I saw it. It's a good movie.
Yeah, it's good.
Not a great one, but it's a good movie. It's
yeah.
not. I wouldn't have nominated it for Best Picture.
No.
You know, not on 3 lists, but you know, it's probably the best 3-star movie I saw all year.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I would back that up. That's yeah.
Well, I'll tell you something that is not a 3-star movie, and that's our next film. This is Licorice Pizza.
This is so good.
I love this movie.
This is so good.
This is so good. I know there were people who didn't care for it, but
I
love this movie.
I don't think that there's been a Paul Thomas Anderson movie that I didn't like, and I think I only
or
haven't
that has
seen
gotten
Hard Eight.
complete universal praise.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Because there's always that group of people that are like,
Mm-hmm.
Wes Anderson's the same way.
Yeah.
But there's always that. Just I love this movie because I love a good hangout movie.
Yes.
Where you're just hanging out with these characters.
Yeah. I saw something. I saw a tweet that said Licorice Pizza is the movie Richard Linklater would make if he had a concept of nuance and pacing.
Richard Linklater's a good director.
I like him, but it
what
was.
are they talking about?
But if you think about it, this is kind of a hyper stylized Dazed and Confused or American Graffiti kind of.
Look, Paul Thomas Anderson could not make Dazed and Confused.
No. It's too
and
loose.
Richard Linklater couldn't make this.
No, because it's too tight.
Yeah.
They're very different filmmakers, and taking on this, seeing them operate in the same kind of genre is really cool because they're very antithetical in terms of their styles.
Well, you know, this is the year of the coming of age movie. You know, there's a lot of coming of age movies. One of them's nominated this year.
I love a good coming of age movie.
I just don't like the other one that's nominated this year because I didn't like Belfast, but I like this.
Belfast was. It happened.
Fine.
Yeah, exactly. Like we said at the top of the show, it exists.
It's just one of those movies where at the end of it, you're like, well, I saw that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want Licorice Pizza to end.
I didn't
because
either.
I'm sitting there and it's not really tightly packed. It's a it's episodic. It's just about this kid.
It's the most entertaining Best Picture nominee.
Absolutely.
It's the most fun out of anything. It's the only one on this list that at some point during it I didn't go, is it almost over?
You're checking the time code.
Like I loved Dune, and of course I love Drive My Car, as evidenced a few moments ago. I liked CODA quite a bit. I loved
Drive My Car was your favorite film of the year.
Yeah, Drive My Car is my favorite film, and even still, it's like, how much longer do I have on this one? Mm-hmm. Even, Nightmare Alley, Power of the Dog, West Side Story, each one, I was just like, okay, this is really good, but when is it over?
The movies got longer this year.
They felt...
The movies got literally longer this year.
There's like 2 that are under 2.5 hours nominated for Best Picture, right? Or 3.
Well, our focus in Licorice Pizza is on a kid named Gary, and I really like this kid.
He was really good.
Because he's not so obnoxious that you can't follow him around, but he's every bit of his age.
Yes.
He's all of 16.
He is very much a 16-year-old kid.
Did he go to high school? Because he goes to high school. He goes to school like at the very beginning for picture day, and that's it.
I think.
Did he go back to school?
I think it was. I think the rest of it was set over the summer.
Okay. Because this is the most active kid who's not into sports I've ever seen. You know, he does these musicals. He's an actor, and he does these really, really crappy looking musicals, the kind of the Partridge Family without the, without the beat.
Right.
And
It's kind of it's about 6 notches underneath Max from Rushmore.
right, and he's in this theater troupe run by Christine Ebersole, who I think is trying to do like late stage Lucille Ball.
Yeah.
She's got that craggy cigarette voice, and she's always pissed off.
Yeah.
But he meets this girl who is working as the assistant to the school photographer.
Hmm.
Her name is Alana, and her response to him, because he tries to talk to her, her response to him is reasonable because she's 25 years old and he's 16,
Hmm.
and he seems to be hitting on her.
Hmm.
But he's not being crude. He's just talking to her.
Right. 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 Right.
He's not being disgusting.
He's not throwing up pickup lines and trying to. He's not obviously trying to bed her. He's just trying to talk to her.
Yeah, I'm trying to, let's go out, something. And finally she does.
Hmm.
And I thought, I actually didn't think she was 25. I thought, oh, she must be lying about her age. Because I thought, how are they going to develop a romance in this if they're that far off in age?
The answer is they don't.
They don't.
It's a friendship story and not a love story. It's a love story in the sense that it's a budding friendship, and it's a
Hmm.
it their relationships help their relationship helps both of them at a crossroads in their lives.
This is 1973, by the way. We
Right.
should mention that because that's really important because
Oh, yeah.
she's very much stuck in the Gloria Steinem kind of feminist mindset. Even though her
Right.
boss still slaps her on the ass.
Right. Because, I
Um,
mean, remember what she would be. Let's see. If she was 25, then she was born in, what,
73.
52? 54?
Yeah, yeah.
She would have been. She would have been a little younger than my mother.
Oh, yeah, or just slightly older than mine, yeah,
Actually,
slightly younger than
she
mine.
would have been 4 years younger than my mother.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but you can see the sort of feminist rage that's kind of in her,
Hmm.
but she does melt
Yeah.
at certain times around him. Not enough to fall in love with him or to take him to bed or anything, but
No, he's just very disarming, and
right.
his genuine youthful energy
Hmm.
is kind of like a balm to her because she's 25 years old in 1973. It's a cynical time. It's
Hmm.
you know, uh, Watergate hasn't happened yet, but um,
Vietnam has.
Vietnam certainly has, and the it's a big point in somebody's life, 25, and to be at that point at such a tumultuous time in history, like there's no path forward for you, and you can't really see a path forward for anything else either. So,
He can't really move forward on his own because he's so young. She really can't move forward on her own because she's a woman. And
and
so
kind of immature.
kind of immature. Well, she's stuck between being I'm an adult
Right.
at 25. I'm an adult, but I still want to hang out and party like I did when
She's
I was 16.
she's still a kid at heart, I guess, or she's
Yeah.
still, because I didn't have this, but I understand that when you are that age, it's like you're trying to hold on to whatever you had in your youth. Um,
Right.
I
It
was
only gets worse.
Yeah. I mean, I was married with a child at 23, so
Mhm.
I didn't have the luxury of not really knowing where I was going. But so I I get that she's, she knows she has to move forward and get, a big girl
And
job.
she's also smarter and more worldly than he is.
Right.
I love the fact that they go into business together, and it's right at the beginning. It's going to business selling waterbeds. It's and it's interesting that this movie hits these historical points
Mm-hmm.
because at this point there's the oil embargo with the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
And she realizes before he does that they can no longer sell waterbeds because they can't make waterbeds anymore because you need the oil.
Yeah. Plastic's
And
made from oil. And he's like, well, what
right.
difference does that make? It's like, what is plastic made from?
Oh.
I don't even know if he knew that, but
Yeah. Yeah. And then they have to go. And then they go out of business. And I love when they cross paths. The best part of the movie is when they cross paths with John Peters. And John Peters, if you don't know, is a real life. He was a movie producer and a real shark.
Mm-hmm.
If you've ever heard Kevin Smith's story about the making of the Superman movie, about the giant mechanical spider, that's John Peters.
Yes. Yeah. And that wound up in Wild Wild West.
Wild Wild West, yeah, and he is played in this movie in a brilliant performance by Bradley Cooper,
Mm-hmm.
as he tells them, "You fuck up my house, and I'll kill you both."
Yeah.
Well, they mess up his house, and they take off running,
Yeah.
but they run out of gas because there's a gas
Because of
shortage
course.
going on. And they run into him going the other way.
Right.
And he doesn't know that they've messed up because they pulled the plug on the waterbed and just flooded his house.
Right.
It's the most thrilling. That may be the most thrilling scene of any movie I've seen this year. Just the fact that they're trying to run away from him. They have to go up this hill and they have run out of gas.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually she just has to coast it backwards. After they tear up his car.
Yeah.
I love the way this. I love this, the way that this movie just runs into stuff.
Yeah.
And sometimes it just never feels like it has to explain itself. Late in the film, when she goes to work for that political candidate,
Mm-hmm.
and he invites her out for a drink, and I never really caught on to exactly why he invited her there. But it turns out he's gay,
Mm-hmm.
and his partner is pissed because he has to keep their relationship under wraps.
Right.
Because if it got out, he wouldn't be a political candidate.
Mm-hmm.
I never figured out why he invited her there in the first place.
She's a beard.
She's a beard. Okay.
He it looks like one of them is on a date with her, and the other one is just a friend that's tagging along.
And they never explain. There's a guy in a shirt, a guy in a jersey across the street, who's just there.
He's probably
And
oppositional research.
They never explain who this guy is.
I would
It's like, is he a potential assassin?
oppositional research, just trying to tail him and see if he can get dirt on him so that they can use it against him.
Former boyfriend, maybe? Never know. You don't know. It's
Right.
just like they just leave this stuff.
Well,
there's another scene also where Gary gets arrested.
Mm-hmm.
The cops just come and pull him. Was it out of a boat show or something?
Yeah.
And
then she just kind of goes and gets him. They just let him out. I don't...
well, they arrest him for murder.
Yeah.
And they got him at the police station, and then they pull somebody in. He says, well, that's not him. And they just unlock his handcuffs, and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
We never know what that was all about. I love that randomness.
Mm-hmm.
I love that randomness. Not many directors can get this kind of control over it. But, God, I love this movie.
This was so much fun. I enjoyed
so much fun.
And, yeah, it's one of those that you don't really want to end but then you get to the next one, and you don't know how it's going to end.
Nightmare Alley.
Oh, I loved this one.
Spoilers, it ends like it began.
Yeah. It's what they call a full circle story.
The only thing is full circle irony. The only problem I have with Nightmare Alley is I wish it were in black and white.
I know.
I wish he shot it in
They
black and
they
white.
I understand that they're like they did with Logan. They're going back and doing a
Or Mad Max.
Del Toro's doing a black and white version of and re-releasing it out to theaters. So I w- I might brave a theater for that. That would, you know.
I'm going to tell you, though, this is a movie, it's about Bradley Cooper again. Plays a drifter who wanders into getting a job in a carnival and becomes a mentalist.
Mm-hmm.
He's not one, but he learns how to be one. And he's a complete charlatan. Takes a job and gets involved with a millionaire who wants him to contact his wife, and he plays it for all it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't really all that interested in that part of it. I was just interested in the first part of it, where it just was about what goes on in this carnival.
The carnival stuff was really a lot of fun. The stuff where he starts to rise in popularity as a mentalist with Cate Blanchett as a psychiatrist or as something psychiatrist backing him, which this is the second movie that she just kind of shows up in and then is a main character. But this time she was actually like necessary.
Yeah, because she was also in Don't Look Up.
Right, where she was unnecessary. And
technically everybody was, but
yeah, well,
well, we
it was
drained
an
that pool,
unnecessary movie.
Yeah.
Well, not as unnecessary as West Side Story, but we'll get there.
Look, one shit at a time.
Yeah,
okay?
right. But I loved the way that Del Toro shot this, and the way that he actively avoided supernaturalism and focused on, because his whole thing, if you look back over his filmography, he is all about the monster inside.
Yeah.
And you know, even when there is an actual monster or a ghost, like in Devil's Backbone, it's not about the ghost. It's about the demon in the man that killed him. You know.
Well, and a movie we talked about just last year was Magic.
Yeah.
Where it was about a ventriloquist, but it was never, there was no supernatural to any of it. It was just what was going on.
Right. It was just a psychotic break, and I loved that we were finally able to see a vision of Del Toro's vision of the real world without a reality in it, or anti-reality in it.
He presents the world without safety nets.
Right, and it's
like
not a pretty world.
No, it's not. It's actually, well, I mean, it's the carnival world, so it's...
Well, I mean, it's carnies in general.
It's filthy and scummy and just dirty, and it's all run by Willem Dafoe, so...
Yeah. Take that with whatever you can.
Well, I didn't know what this was until I saw it, because when you think Nightmare Alley and you see a carnival and it's by
Guillermo del
Toro, your first thought is, okay, it's going to be Freaks.
Yeah, it's going to be Guillermo del Toro's Freaks, and
yeah,
you know what? I would watch the shit out of that too.
I would watch that. I would watch that. And I thought, and it was coming out. Didn't it come out on Christmas Day?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
And I thought, and I saw the commercial for it, and I thought, okay, well, it's going to be one of those horror films that just opens on Christmas Day and then it's just forgotten. because the way I saw it, it was presented like it was one of those Guillermo del Toro presents,
Mm.
or you know those old movies that are like Quentin Tarantino presents,
Right, like he puts his name on it so it can be imported so that people go watch it because he
and
liked
it's
it.
nothing to do with him at all. It's just something he
Right.
liked.
But
And I thought that was what this was going to be.
that's not what this is.
And then it started to pick up, and I watched it because we got a screener for it.
Hmm.
And I thought, okay, when is the supernatural level? Where are the monsters? Because I thought it's Del Toro. It's got a carnival that's got to have monsters, right?
The monsters
And I
were
thought,
inside
okay,
us all along.
the monster was human nature,
Yeah.
human greed,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
avarice. All the things that push film noir.
Mm-hmm.
Because film noir is basically a horror show
Mm-hmm.
about the human animal,
Right.
what human beings do to one another.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but once he got into this thing, is it Richard Jenkins,
Yeah.
the millionaire? I don't know about you, but I started thinking, how in the world do you think you're going to get away with this? Because eventually, because he's doing all of these seances and things like that, and I started thinking, okay, when he starts talking about, I want to present the ghost of this woman, and I'm thinking, this is not going to work. This is not going to work.
But it almost does.
It almost does.
Which is that's
And
the trippy part of it.
yeah,
It almost does work.
he got greedy,
He did. He
and
did.
he got greedy, and he ended up paying for it.
Mm-hmm.
And
With
that's what film noir is.
with the rest of his life.
Right.
It's
Film noir does not have a happy ending.
no, no, and this does not have a happy ending for Bradley Cooper.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Um,
I like the ending of this. A lot of people were having.
love
I've
the
talked to
ending
were
of
having.
this.
A lot of people were having problems with the end of this. I thought it was just desserts.
The end was beautiful.
It was beautiful. If you know film noir, this is exactly how it's supposed to end.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So I was enraptured with this because it was Guillermo del Toro film noir, and it was
Atmosphere,
wonderful.
atmosphere,
Oh,
atmosphere.
loved it, loved it. It's too bad
Um,
it won't win anything.
It won't win anything. This is gonna go. This is gonna have a cold hand.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what's not gonna have a cold hand, and that's our next film, which I think this is gonna be our best picture of the year. It's The Power of the Dog.
Yeah, it's probably gonna win.
I think this is gonna be the night's big winner. It will not win Best Director.
Yeah, well,
Straight up, I'm gonna say Jane Campion will not win Best Director for this.
well. If I recall correctly, last year you said that Chloe Zhao wasn't even going to be nominated. So,
You know what? I've got my reasons to think so. I've got my reasons to think that.
I understand,
Because
and
we all
it wouldn't
because
surprise
we also
me.
thought that we also thought Chadwick Boseman was going to win Best Actor.
Exactly,
But then,
yes.
there's that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I won't be surprised if she doesn't win. Um,
I want her to win.
I
She has not made that many films. She does not work all
no,
the time.
no, she doesn't.
If
If
you don't know Jane Campion, she made The Piano.
mhm.
She also made Portrait of a Lady. What else? What am I missing? Oh, she made a great film called Sweetie.
Sweetie, yeah, that was her
Mhm.
first one.
Yep.
If if she doesn't get it, it's probably going to come down to giving Paul Thomas Anderson his first one, or Steven Spielberg his third one.
It's not going to be between those two.
You think it's
Spielberg
going to
won't
be
win
between
for this.
Kenneth Branagh and Ryusuke Hamaguchi?
Hamaguchi, possibly.
I think he's got a shot.
Mhm.
Pre Bong Joon Ho, I wouldn't have said that, or pre
Yeah.
Alfonso Cuarón, I wouldn't say that. But he does have a shot, and I genuinely want to see him at least win adapted screenplay.
Mhm. Yeah, he will.
Um,
I think so.
but Do you think Kenneth Branagh is like a front runner,
No,
or who do you
he's
think
not going to
is?
win. Um, I'm thinking it's going to be what's his name? Drive My Car.
Raitsuki Hamaguchi?
Right,
Hmm.
possibly. If they don't pick Jane Campion, which I don't think they will.
I would say because Paul Thomas Anderson is one of those that um like Christopher Nolan, his fans are rabid,
Hmm.
and this may finally be his year, because
Yeah,
if it hadn't been for No Country for Old Men, he would have won for There Will Be Blood.
yeah.
Um, but Power of the Dog is a fascinating film.
Now, if I said there was no monster in Nightmare Alley,
Yeah.
there's definitely one here.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
jeez.
Yeah.
And it's weird because he's played by Benedict Cumberbatch, who, to my mind, is the most English of Englishmen that ever Englished in English.
Seeing him
I mean,
in interviews and stuff.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah,
I mean,
well. And I have a terrible joke about a flash in the scene flash in a scene later
oh
on in
yeah,
the I said, "Oh, you get to see Betty's Dick and Cumberbatch."
you get to see Benny's Union Jack. But
It felt like it was the year for that, because there were like three or
yeah,
four different movies with frontal nudity, male frontal nudity scenes.
yeah, there was something else I was watching a couple of days later that was just exactly the same way. I was like, wait a minute,
Yeah,
is this becoming a thing?
yeah. I don't remember. I don't remember what it was. Hey, you know what? Parody. After all these years of just
might have been House of Gucci. It may have been House of Gucci. I don't know.
maybe.
But I was watching something a couple of nights later, and I was like, wait a minute, is this becoming a thing? I believe in equality. I believe in equality.
Yeah.
But this is so interesting because this is one of those movies that has the kind of texture and poetry of something that you read.
Yes.
You feel like you're reading this story.
Jane Campion's films always feel like novels.
Yeah, if you come to this and
In
this
a
is the
good
first
way.
Jane Campion movie you've ever seen, you're going to be lost because this is her style.
Yeah.
The piano was like this,
Right.
in that she builds a lot of character stuff.
It's kind
Uh,
of how was it Anthony Minghella used to do, like the English
yeah,
Patient, and
right.
it's very layered. It's very, you reveal more and more as you go on, but things are very subtle. It's not
And
spelled
then there's
out.
just a sucker punch at the end.
Yeah. The ending
Because
of this was so good.
he is this rancher who is just this bulldog who holds sway over everyone. Just this a sheer force of his personality, and he's a little guy. It's Benedict Cumberbatch. It's not like he's 6'4" and 300 pounds. He's a little guy, but just through his complete force of will, holds these people prisoner.
Hmm.
In particular, um, Kirsten Dunst,
Who
marvelous. She's going
really,
to win the
really
Oscar, I
should
think.
win. Her, this is the greatest performance she has ever turned in. I've always liked Kirsten Dunst. This is remarkable.
Now, it's been a while since I've seen this. Did he drive her to drink, or was she already a drunk?
She made it a point of saying she didn't drink at the beginning when she
So
was.
he drove her to drunk.
Yes.
Drove her to drink.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because she, I don't even think she allowed it. Like, she didn't sell it. I think you had to bring it BYOB into her
Hmm.
restaurant.
Right.
And
Right.
and
She
even
was a
that
teetotaler.
even that she didn't even really like. Or
Hmm.
no, there was a bar next door.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and his malevolence
Mhm.
completely erodes this poor woman down
Yeah,
to,
just drives her
like,
down.
she loses her entire identity and just became her whole life just became being afraid of him.
It's so representative, I think, of marriages at that time,
Mm-hmm.
where a woman marries a man. Well, this is 1925. Marries a man she doesn't, who would marry a man she didn't really know to be married,
Mm-hmm.
and then has to live under the boot of his
Mm-hmm.
personality. It feels very much like that. Um, that it comes down to just somebody walks in the door. It's like everybody's been through this. A certain individual walks in the door, and everybody just bristles.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody just tightens up because that person is here. Um, and I think that's the hold. And it's this kid. It's the last person in the world you would think.
Cody Smith McPhee. Oh,
Cody Smith McPhee, her son, who just comes in and manages to break this man. And I think he does it. I think he learns how to do it just by watching him.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He takes so many cues from Burbank. I don't remember the first name, um, but uh, like, you think that he's kind of small and unassuming,
Mhm.
and then you find out that he's pre-med and dissecting animals, and
Mhm. Preserving
he's,
them.
yeah, yeah, and
Phil Burbank.
Phil, yeah, um,
Yeah. He
and
is Peter.
yeah,
Peter.
he
His name.
he's a quiet, sensitive boy.
Very stringy kid.
Yeah,
Very, yeah.
uh, you know, unassuming,
Hmm.
but he sees what's happening to his mother.
Hmm.
And when Phil lets his guard down just a little bit and starts to let um, him in and kind of starts to, you know, take him under his wing, I couldn't figure out if Phil was being malicious at that point or if it was genuine. I later just kind of came to it that it was genuine because he was, well, closeted. Um,
Yeah, he's in the closet
um, and
because he was in love with another rancher.
yeah, who had
He
showed him
lets
the
that
ropes.
slip. Right.
And he's kind of trying to recreate that relationship
Through
with
Peter.
through Peter. And
I'm remembering this from memory because I saw this in November.
yeah, me too. I saw this pretty soon after we got it.
Yeah.
But you
She
see,
builds this. It's 2 hours and 25 minutes. She builds this so slowly
it's 2 hours and six
and
minutes.
so deliberately. It's 2 hours and 6 minutes.
Yeah,
She builds this so slowly
yeah. It feels like
and
it's
so
2.5 or
deliberately.
3 hours because of how she builds it, but not in a bad way.
It does not take place. This does not feel like an American film at all.
No.
It feels very European. Um,
Well, she's Australian or New Zealand.
New Zealand. It has this. It has more or less the same pace as Drive My Car.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, a lot more happens
Mm.
in this physically than in Drive My Car, but I think the same thing is there of a person who is haunted by somebody that's no longer there
Yeah.
and then finds some place to put it.
Right.
But this person, what's interesting is when you get to the end of it and you realize the person that Phil is underneath and you realize the secret that he's been hiding, you also realize the person that has been created by all that pain
Mm-hmm.
and all of that. Because this is 1925, this is early 20th century. Men didn't share their feelings,
Right.
men didn't open up about these things. And he's repressed it. And
And
it has become this tough, leathery exterior,
right.
if I can call it that.
And I love the whole the metaphor of their budding relationship is this hide rope
Hmm.
that Phil is braiding for Peter,
Hmm.
and all of the skins that were the hides that were being dried, uh, I guess uh, Phil usually burned them,
Hmm.
wouldn't give them to natives,
Hmm.
and she gave them away.
Yeah,
He needed them for the rope, uh,
right.
but I love that Peter had gone off by himself and found uh, uh, a, a bull or a cow that had died of hoof and mouth, I think, or
Mhm.
something,
Anthrax.
anthrax. And Phil notably refused to handle any diseased animals.
Right.
If any of them got sick, somebody else took them, and he didn't have anything to do with them.
Yeah.
Uh, but Peter says, "Oh, hey, I have some hide that you can use to finish this." He had gone out by himself, skinned his own buffalo with a scalpel. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I gotta say that's kind of impressive. Um,
Yeah. Because he's not a very big guy.
no,
He's a little guy.
and uh, when Phil is done braiding this rope, he dies.
Mhm.
He goes nuts, and then he dies. They're like, "Oh, it's anthrax," and they're like, "Well, it's never around diseased animals. He makes a point of it." Peter used the hide of the diseased cow to poison and murder Phil Burbank for what he did to his mother. That
Slowly.
is so. I was
You
so
drive
I was blown away by the ending. I did not expect it at all.
drive this kid. He drove this kid to do this
And not
because
feel bad about it.
and not feel bad about it.
Not feel
And we don't
compelled.
feel bad about
No,
it, really.
he's not compelled to say, "Oh, this is what I did." No, he did what he had to do to protect his mother.
Right. Right. Let me tell you, I'm going to predict the fate of this film. Um, it's what happened to Nomadland. It's what's happened to Spotlight. It's one of these films that's brilliant, but it's brilliant and it will be remembered at award time, and then it will completely disappear.
Yeah.
It's just one of these films. People are not going to seek this out in 5 years.
Now,
As good as it is,
do you think Benny's going to win?
I do.
If
I
Benny
do.
if
What about who are the nominees? Now, who are our nominees this year? Let's see.
it's let me see here. Benny, Andrew Garfield, Denzel Washington, Javier Bardem, and Will Smith. So there are two repeats, but Javier Bardem has never
Very
been nominated for
slim
lead.
chance, possibly, maybe Will Smith. I don't think so, but
I would
maybe.
in my mind the dark horse that could surprise everybody is going to be Andrew Garfield.
Mhm.
I don't think
I don't know.
anybody
I don't.
expects that to win anything. I don't expect it to win anything. But if Best Actor is uh, not Benedict Cumberbatch, I think there's a really square chance that the outsider could get in. But
I think if we're looking at this, um, even with what I said about Jane Campion, I think Power of the Dog is going to win. I'm going to say probably 7 of this year, maybe 7 to 10 are going to go to
wow,
Power of the Dog. I think that's going to be a
that's
lot of it.
that's
A lot
a
of it this year.
that's a significant statue haul. There hasn't been any.
But not impossible.
No, no, no. But there hasn't been anything that's won that big since Slumdog
Schindler's
Millionaire.
List won that many.
Slumdog Millionaire had got like 8. That's the last time I
Okay.
remember one film going home with a crap ton. Most of them, since
Well,
for the last 10 years at least, they've kind of spread the Oscars out around their nominees. Um,
yeah, but the nominees list this year, because I had a list of the ones because I was going to watch them all. It's pretty slim.
yeah,
It's not a wide. It's not. It doesn't go very wide this year.
I would
Mostly
love.
because of what 2021 was.
Oh yeah, I would love to see Denzel win his 3rd Oscar.
I would love to see Drive My Car win Best Picture.
Me too.
Because it's so liked it. I
Oh,
love this
me
movie.
too.
Of course, if I'm putting down my vote for any of these, it's going to be for Licorice Pizza because I love this movie so much.
Oh yeah, yeah.
My favorite film of the year is not on here, and that's Spencer.
Ah,
Yeah, Spencer was not on here. But I guess I can tell you what I would not vote for, and that is our last nominee to talk about
look,
for this show.
this is the best unnecessary movie since Peter Jackson's King Kong. We
I
didn't
saw
need
this
that,
in the theater the
and
other
we
night.
didn't need this.
I saw this in the theater the other night, and I think it was over, and the credits were rolling, and I texted you, and I said, "Well, that happened."
Yeah.
And I forgot to explain myself, and you were like, "What happened?" So I don't know. I saw a West Side Story, and it happened.
It happened. It's
I should mention also, this is the longest of the nominees
is it?
at 156 minutes. It's about 3 minutes longer than Dune.
Oh wow.
This is the longest. Belfast is the shortest.
I
But-
beg to differ. This is not the longest.
Oh, except for Drive My Car.
179 minutes, kiddo.
179. I'm looking at. I actually have the times written.
Yeah,
I actually have the times written here.
yeah. 179, baby. That beats West
This is the
Side
second
Story.
But I saw it. I've never really cared much for West Side Story. I'm sorry. It's just a personal preference. I've never cared much for West Side Story. As a musical, I didn't care for the 1961 film. I didn't care for this one. Though, and largely because with all of our racial problems still lingering right now, I was looking for some kind of updating, some kind of modernity to it. But no, it's stuck in the 50s.
It is, and it's also Spielberg crossed a line, I think, and he became overwoke by not subtitling the Spanish because that would just be catering to the English speaking. No, it's catering to every individual who doesn't speak Spanish. That's more than just English speaking people. So
I think, but the thing is about when they're speaking Spanish, you are caught up in the scene, and the scenes are simplified to the degree that you don't even really need the subtitles,
right,
because you're moving in and out of Spanish and English.
But they are actually. I saw a tweet that was really excited that it wasn't subtitled and it was actual plot necessary dialogue.
Well, weren't you surprised that within their home, you got are they Puerto Rican immigrants or are they Puerto Rican? I don't know if they're New Yorkers, if they're native to New
Oh
York,
no,
but
they're immigrants. They talk about how they liked it down in
you
PR.
would think that within their home they would speak Spanish.
Hmm.
Once the three of them are in their home, they would be speaking
Well,
Spanish because they're speaking English.
some people are like that German couple in Casablanca, where they're going to America,
Mhm.
so they only want to speak English from here on out. You know, it helps them practice it. It helps them learn it and understand it, and they know Spanish.
Mhm.
And I I I think in some ways that's why there's the switch back and forth. Also because you know the people who don't speak Spanish that are watching this uh, internationally uh, need to know what's happening.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, I have a question for you. You saw this in the
Oh Lord.
theater. Can you explain to me why everybody was so happy about this and was like, "Oh, this is revolution. This is great. This it's not a revolutionary movie." Yeah,
Revolutionary?
people were saying like this is like one of the greatest
Well,
things that Spielberg's ever done, and I'm like, this is not that.
if it's revolutionary, I've missed something because what I was looking for is, like I said, I was looking for some kind of modernity. I was looking for some kind of modern commentary on what the racial issues that are going on. I didn't. I just saw a movie stuck in 1957.
Right. This is
Um,
this is a
it does address, although it does address briefly, the fact that the territory that they're fighting over, the Irish Polish, the fact that the Irish Polish gang members, if I can say,
yeah,
street kids, are fighting over this territory, and it's the
and it's
same as the
about to
Puerto
be it's
Rican.
about to be Lincoln Center, and it's not going to
It's about to be
exist
Lincoln
anymore.
Center,
Yeah, yeah. They're fighting over land that will not belong to anyone, any of them.
right?
Uh,
And what is it? Corey Stoll says you're going to be doormen.
yeah.
You're going to be, you're going to be have the menial jobs. And I will say that it is interesting to see Corey Stoll with
Yeah,
hair.
it was weird.
Actually, it's a wig, but
Well, obviously.
I mean, obviously a wig. But and he's trying to give them that reality. They're not listening
No.
because their reality is just what they're fighting for.
Hmm.
Now, I wouldn't have minded if the movie were about that, but it's so hard set on this love story that means
The
nothing.
trouble is that Spielberg loves the 1961 Robert Wise Jerome Robinson film so much that he wanted to make his own version of it, which was as exactly close to the Wise Robbins version that he could make. Basically, he approached it with, "What ain't broke? If it ain't broke, don't fix it." But I'm still gonna fix it.
But in remaking it, he fixed it.
Right,
He
right,
tried
right,
to fix it.
exactly. So the sheer fact of him doing it is
Mhm.
an antithetical thought to what he was going for. Like, re-release it. Back
Mhm.
back
Yeah,
a
that's just what I was
back a
thinking.
4K restoration and back a re-release in the theaters. That'd be really cool.
At Christmas time,
Yeah.
I'm sure people would love on Christmas Day to go see West Side
For
Story.
families and stuff, and it's a classic movie, and that. But
We didn't need
he
this.
spent time and money and effort to. I mean, it's almost like Gus Van Sant's Psycho. It's like, what is the
Yeah.
point? There's like two or three extra
Well,
scenes, but that's it. I mean, the movie's not.
The only thing you really get out of this is the fact that you do have um, Puerto Rican actors playing the Puerto Rican
Right,
roles. That's the only advantage that you really have.
right. That's the
You
that's
don't
the
have
biggest
Natalie Wood
difference.
and
Yeah, and there's they they add stuff in that they couldn't have known back when they were making the movie in 1961.
right,
But they add a couple of
the whole
things.
Lincoln
There's
Center
yeah,
thing.
there's
Yeah,
there's one or two scenes that are different, but for the most part, he holds it so true to what he loves. There's no point to it.
and the love story is so dry and so
It's
uninteresting. This
perfunctory.
actor who this actor who plays what's his name?
Tony?
I forget the character's name. Ansel Elgort.
Yeah, well,
He's not a good actor because they have love scenes in this where he is giving her nothing.
yeah.
She has so much passion. She says she's a good performer. She's a good actress, and she's trying to emote
I
and bring out this love of him. And he's looking at her, and it's like, "What are you
yeah,
doing?"
a better
It's
a
like
better choice may have been
Andrew Garfield, in my opinion.
yeah, or I had somebody and now they're gone.
Oh, sorry.
no, it
All
was
right.
right as I was about to say it. No, I don't remember who I was going to say. Um, but he I don't know. He's pretty. That's about as far as we get.
Nice looking
Yeah.
guy.
I mean,
Just
um,
sucks as an actor. It's just, and I know that it plays. I know that this is how the musical goes, but there are scenes that are arranged very strangely, like the scene in the rumble in the salt shed, where Bernardo and Riff are stabbed to
mhm.
death, is immediately followed by Maria singing "I Feel Pretty," and I'm like, okay, what? That's just that always felt weird to me. It's like
I mean,
it's a weird transition.
well, it's the same smash cut that Shakespeare wrote in after that big duel, and then all of a sudden it smash cuts to Juliet in with her
I
nanny,
think that may be
with
where it
her
comes from.
nurse, and then they're talking about that. That's where I Feel Pretty comes from. That smash cut is right there with Shakespeare. So that
But if he's going to change something, why not change that?
well,
You know. But it's just it's so. I watched it and I'm like, okay, it's interesting. It looks good, of course it does for the money they're spending on it. But I'm thinking this was wholly unnecessary.
oh, that's
This
who I was
just
gonna
wasn't.
say. They should have gotten Ty Sheridan.
Yeah, yeah,
Ty Sheridan could
I
have
see
done it.
that.
Um,
Yeah,
because I don't really recall him doing any real singing and dancing. I don't
yeah,
know if Ty Sheridan can sing and dance, but he's a better actor.
yeah. I
Um,
just think that the last this is what drives me nuts is the musical, the 61 version, and this is that I can't. I hate the last 20 minutes of this movie, especially a weird choice. The love song that Tony and Maria are supposed to sing together is "There's a Place for
mhm.
Us," but instead it is sung by Rita Moreno, who is in this movie, and the only
she's
reason she's
she's
singing it is
she's in
because
it
it's
to
Rita
be
Moreno.
she's in it to be Rita Moreno in West Side Story.
It's because she's in it because she's Rita Moreno and she won the Oscar
Right,
for this
right.
in
And if
1962.
George
And
Chakiris were alive, I'm sure he would have been in this too.
but she's singing "There's a Place for Us," and I'm thinking, okay, who are you singing to?
Yeah,
It's because you want her to be able to sing something in the movie,
right.
and I'm thinking, okay, if that's the case, write her a song,
Yeah,
give her an original
yeah.
song.
I
If you want to remake it, do something surprising. That's my biggest problem with this movie. There's nothing surprising about it.
absolutely nothing. Everything you know what's coming around every turn.
Mm,
There's no spontaneity to it. There's no it's
mm,
just I felt like I was just watching the 61 version.
mhm.
That's all. And
Yeah.
it was kind of on. Um, so it's not a poorly made movie because it's Steven Spielberg.
No, it's just an unnecessary movie.
Completely unnecessary, and instead of what Peter Jackson did with the unnecessary remake of King Kong and make it like damn exciting and fun and adding
Try to do something with it.
adding a whole sequence that had been originally cut from the original film and trying to
Mm.
recreate that as something you could splice into King Kong too. And I just there's none of that here. There's nothing innovative.
I want one more great fantasy film from Spielberg before he leaves
I
us.
I want him to I want him to get off autopilot.
Yeah,
He's
stop making
he has
adaptations.
been on autopilot for decades. And
Mhm.
like, uh, Lincoln was phenomenal,
Yeah, it was.
but have you seen Ready Player One?
Yes. Ready Player One feels like somebody else's movie. Yeah.
Entirely. It does not feel like a Spielberg movie at all.
No, it doesn't.
And it is lousy. I mean,
Hmm.
that is the worst bit of filmmaking I have ever seen from Steven Spielberg. And I've seen Always.
And I've seen Empire. I've seen Empire of the Sun.
I've
Okay,
seen
I know what I
Hook.
know he can do.
Okay, so
Yeah,
Hook is almost an amateur. Look, I'll get on a tangent if we start talking about Hook. Um,
I could have nominated. Let me put it this way: as far as Best Picture nominations go, this is very safe.
oh yeah,
This is
it
extremely
is
safe.
not uh, a surprise, and
You
him.
could have nominated.
Why
You
why is he up for Best Director though? Somebody else could have been put
because of
up.
Spielberg.
I know, but I don't know. There
You
were
could have. You could have nominated. You could have nominated Being the Ricardos or Spencer or Lost Daughter or something with a little more juice. I wasn't the biggest fan in the world of Lost Daughter, but at
me
least it was
either. But I would
something
have
different.
I could see that being a Best Picture nominee, and kind of surprised it
It was
wasn't.
something new and different. It was, it wasn't this.
Right. Exactly. It
And I'm
wasn't.
looking at the list of nominees and seeing if there anything else.
It's a point and shoot movie. It's
Yeah,
like he did not. And I know that he probably directed it with the same fervor that he's done with the best of them, but I don't know. This just feels like another Lost World to me.
the last. I would love to have seen maybe a nominee. I don't know. I wouldn't have complained if Macbeth had been nominated
I'm actually surprised
because
it wasn't.
Macbeth is so good. Like I said, I had some problems with the ending. I thought the performances at the end kind of fell off. Where both Lady Macbeth and Macbeth were supposed to be going insane,
Hmm.
but they both seemed a little too in control. Maybe it's because it's Denzel, Franny McD.
Yeah.
But I like that film very
I'm
much.
surprised Joel Cohen wasn't nominated for director or even Lin Manuel Miranda just to nominate Lin Manuel Miranda.
Because he's the kid of the
Yeah,
moment.
I mean, and he's damn
Um,
talented. And Tick Tick Boom is a movie.
it's a good movie.
It's
It's
all
it's it's
right.
a
It's
movie.
all right. Um,
Tick Tick Boom is a
it's a
movie.
movie. It plays. It has
I
characters.
enjoyed it. I enjoyed.
Tick Tick
I
Boom was
enjoyed. I
fine.
enjoyed.
It, but I'm glad that wasn't nominated for Best Picture because it really has no
Right.
business being nominated for anything more than Andrew
No, it doesn't.
Garfield. But um,
I really liked my favorite film of the year was Spencer
which is a
because
damn
it
good
was
movie.
challenging.
That's a good
It was
movie. It
challenging.
is. And
It's not, and a lot of people that saw it were complaining that it was not based in reality, that it was a fantasy because it says right at the beginning,
yeah,
and
I
the
kind of
fact that she
admired.
goes to
I had
this estate at Christmas
yeah,
time. I'm sorry.
yeah. I admired the fact that it was not based on a true story.
Well, also because I think he probably knew he had the crown to deal with,
Mm-hmm.
because the crown is getting to the point where it's dealing now with Diana's story.
Mm.
So anything that he did to deal with her story is inevitably going to be compared. So what he did was he took it and he made it a fantasy, mostly that takes place in her head while she was having all of these problems with the royal family.
Right, right.
And it's one particular Christmas.
And it he. I'm happy that this isn't based in truth because it feels like it gets to a deeper truth than if he were
Mm.
trying to tell the true story.
Such deeper truths and such surrealism that there are scenes in it that remind you of The
Yeah.
Shining. I mean,
There's that one shot that looked like it was pulled out of Russian arc that
mhm,
Stanley
just
Kubrick
running down the
Stanley
hallway.
Kubrick would have given his left nut to be able to shoot something like that. I mean,
Right.
that is a Kubrick shot up one side and down the other, and if he would have had the digital technology that we have today, good lord.
Well, I am so in love with the work of Pablo Larraín
He's
anyway because
good.
I love Jackie and
Yeah,
I loved Emma because they are so
they
challenging.
are.
And there's
He's a different filmmaker in every positive possible way I can mean that.
and all three films are about very strong
Yeah,
women.
yeah,
And I love his work. I can't wait to see what he does next.
yeah. He
Um,
and yeah, I'm happy that Kristen Stewart got nominated despite the fact that she didn't get a SAG nomination, which I don't think there has ever been a Best Lead
mhm,
Actress win that
mhm.
hadn't been at least nominated for the SAG for the same performance.
Yeah.
Uh, which is unfortunate because I think she should win for that performance because it was
Mhm.
the poor woman has been living in the shadow of Twilight. She gave non-performances in Twilight movies because those were non-movies. Robert Pattinson gave non-performances. He's quite talented as well. I'd love to
If
see
you
him get
see,
nominated for an Oscar for something.
she's a very physical
Yeah.
actor. And in this, you're kind of worried, like, okay, Princess Diana is being played by Kristen
Hmm.
Stewart, really? But she has a very expressive
She
face,
does.
and she doesn't do a lot of dialogue.
No.
Um, and I think that helps.
She's also she's also been through the independent film grinder. She's worked with Kelly Reichardt a
Right.
couple of times. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
what was it Certain Women? And it was really good. She gave a damn good performance in that movie. I don't know if you saw it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Hell of a movie. Kelly Reichardt's really good. Uh, I hope she's recognized
Um,
someday too.
Another nominee this year. Did you see Hand of God?
Yes.
Pablo Sorrentino, I swear, is so hell bent on making his own Fellini film. It's just,
Well, he said that he was inspired by Alfonso Cuarón's Roma, which in
yeah.
and of
Well, this
itself
feels like Fellini.
was inspired by Amarcord. So Paolo Sorrentino is such an interesting filmmaker. Uh,
Yeah.
the Great Beauty is
Hmm.
weird but wonderful.
Yeah, it is.
Um,
This is weird and wonderful.
yes, yes, and what was the other one that he?
What else did
Youth
he?
with Harvey Keitel and Michael. Uh, why can't I think of his name? Alfred
I don't know
in
if I saw that one.
um, Mike. Wow, I actually can't think of his name. Alfred in the Dark Knight. Why can't I think of his name?
Michael
Michael
Caine.
Caine. Thank you, Jesus.
I think I got Youth and I never saw it.
I watched it. It is something else. I
It's
loved it.
something.
I loved it, but it is a very bizarre little movie.
Hand of God is interesting because it does feel so Fellini in that you've got this mixture of just these huge Italian characters that are so broadly that they're so broadly
My
drawn.
favorite character in the whole thing is the old woman that sits in 90-degree heat in a fur coat just to show that she has a fur coat, eating a massive ball of fresh mozzarella just like it's an apple. I loved
And
that.
has nothing good to say. Just
No,
like
she's the meanest person. And just the way that he just has her in the background of his shots in that whole sequence,
mhm.
just tearing into that ball of mozzarella cheese while everybody else is eating like a full meal. And she's off by herself in her fur coat in the summer. It's just that image was so Fellini that it will forever be seared into my mind.
What stuck in my brain is the fact that everyone is so animated and so loud, and yet there's a shot of these men and they're sitting on the boat, and they're all looking in the same direction, and it shows you what they're looking at the ant who is sunbathing as naked as the day
Oh
she was
yeah.
born, and none of them just nobody saying a word.
Well, that's because all the guys the and it's a lot of younger boys are staring and
They're just
completely
fascinated by
enraptured.
it.
Um, she's a beautiful woman.
I was about to say there's a lot to be
There
enraptured by.
is. um, can't.
Because she's like the town Jezebel, and it's like, it's just, that scene where she takes the guy that the cousin is going to marry, and takes the battery out of his voice box, just throws it in the
That
water, just hands
was
it back to. I was like, well, that was mean.
the guy with the vocalizer. Yeah.
Yeah, he just
She
takes
just
the
she
battery
just
out,
doesn't
tosses
want
it
to
in the
hear it
water.
anymore. Nobody wanted to hear him talk anymore. But yeah,
Because
that's
she was going to marry this man that was like 3 times her
not
age,
her. She was
and
already
had
married.
with the
The
cousin,
cousin. Yeah.
the young woman, and she was going to marry this man who's 3 times her age,
But she's
and
so unattractive that this was going to be that
mhm,
everybody was like, this is going to be
this was the
this is
best
the
she
best
could
she can
do.
do. Don't screw it up for her because this is the last chance she's going to get.
But he does what Fellini does.
He
He
does.
throws in a
Yeah.
tragedy. He throws in something serious that just kind of throws the balance off of
Hmm.
everything, and you see how all these characters you've met
Yeah.
react.
The
It's so great. I love this
It was
movie.
really, really good. The one thing that I can say that I didn't like
Mhm.
is that they broke the running joke of not seeing the sister, of having her be in the bathroom.
Mhm.
If you go
Yeah.
all the way down to the end, it's a post-credit sequence and she comes out of the bathroom and she's looking for people. I wish
Mhm.
that wasn't there because
Yeah.
her always being in the bathroom was one of the funniest things in the movie. And
Mhm.
the whole movie was pretty funny, but that was my favorite running gag of the whole picture. And then
That didn't bother me. I didn't. That didn't bother me. I like the fact they referred back to it.
I like that. I think if you would have just seen the bathroom door and heard her going, "Hello, is anybody there?
Mhm.
Hello," but not come out to
Yeah,
investigate, I think would have fit the character that they set up for her. Um,
yeah.
that was my only real quibble with Hand of God. I wanted them to commit full force to the joke of the sister in the bathroom.
I have to tell you, we get if you don't know, we get screeners every year because we're with the Online Film Critics Society. This year, Netflix got a shovel
Netflix
to
paid
shovel out the money.
so much money to send us things that would have no bearing on the movie whatsoever. if you're if
These
you're
huge
if you're a
boxes,
good critic, none of this is going to sway you, or none of it should.
these big. You know what? The only thing that swayed me too is that you know what? They spent so much time and so much money. I might as well watch the
Right.
movie. And
I did. I watched
I think
all
I
the ones
pulled
that they sent us with the.
I did
Yeah,
too.
I
I
did.
did too. Because I thought, okay, well, they spent all this time and money to do this. I might as well watch the movie. And I did. We got Power of the Dog like that. We got Tick Tick Boom. We got like that. Lost Daughter, I think.
Lost Daughter,
Um,
Hand of God,
yeah.
Mitchell's versus the Machines, Passing,
Mhm.
um, The Harder They Come. You got that really cool
Did
flask
Passing
set.
get nominated for anything?
Ruth Negga got best lead or
Did
best
she?
supporting actress nomination. Yeah, that's the only
Did
nomination it
she?
got. Yeah, Ruth Negga got nominated.
Okay. Because I remember early on they were really playing that up as a possible nominee.
I was
Um,
thinking Tessa Thompson might, but once I saw the movie, I'm like, no,
it's
it
boring.
is it is
It is. I
stone
don't mean to
cold boring.
oversimplify it, but I was just kind of,
I was
yeah.
disappointed in Passing. Um, I'll tell you what though, the wine that came with the Lost Daughter was a lot better than the Lost Daughter.
I didn't get the wine.
Well, because you live in a terrible state. Um,
It must be, it might be because of where I live, but it didn't. No, Passing got nominated for no Academy Awards.
huh?
Nope, not a one.
I think I got nominated.
Nope. I thought so too, but no, it didn't get nominated for anything.
Huh? Sure
Nope.
didn't. Huh?
Mm-mm.
That's surprising. What was she nominated for then? Maybe the SAG,
Maybe the Golden
Golden
Globe.
Globe or SAG. Yeah, that's probably what it was.
Did you see Attica?
No,
Oh, Attica's so good. It's nominated for documentary feature.
isn't it? I think it's on
It's
Amazon.
on
It's on
Netflix.
Netflix now. Okay.
Yeah. And it's really, really good. I saw that a couple of weeks ago. It's not sparing at all.
Mm,
It's very much trying to get you to understand what this was all
okay.
about.
Okay.
It was a prison riot in 1971,
Mm-hmm.
and the prisoners at Attica staged a protest, took hostages
Mm-hmm.
because they were being systematically abused and
Uh-huh.
murdered. And it lets you know the intimate details of why. They were feeding these men, and they were spending $21. They're spending 21 cents a day on these men, and they're serving them the cheapest cuts of
Mm-hmm.
pork they could. Now, pork. Now, bear in mind, a lot of these inmates were Muslims.
Mm-hmm.
They're being forced to eat pork, and they're complaining about it. And when they complain about it, they're being beaten to
Mm-hmm.
death. No wonder there's a riot.
Right.
The police responded on the third day by going in and shooting everybody, including the hostages. And no one has ever been called up for it. So it's
Because
challenging, it's
As
tough, and it's
Chris Rock
angry.
says, if you're all white, it's all right.
Yeah, 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 pretty
Yeah.
much. But
Um,
yeah, I've tried to see everything this year. It's proving harder than I thought it would be.
I I
Because
I ended up I already saw quite a bunch of them because the same nominees were for the OFCS awards, and
mhm,
I always try to watch all of them before I vote.
mhm.
Uh, One day I'll
No,
actually
I've
do
seen
it.
all the features. I've seen all the
Yeah.
features. it's those short films that are proving harder to come
Hmm.
by. A lot of the animated shorts, the documentary shorts, the live action shorts, they're proving hard to come by because some of them are just not available.
Well, yeah, yeah. Some of them just
They're just nowhere to be
got theatrical
found.
release, and that's it. Um, but yeah, that's what I. This is
That's all I
this
got.
the, it's going to be an interesting year. Um,
Hmm.
because it's either going to go Power the Dog in a big way,
Hmm.
or it's just going to be surprise after surprise after surprise. Um,
It'll win Best Picture, Drive My Car, Best Director. Um, Best Actor will be Benedict Cumberbatch. Best Actress, I don't think we've talked about that.
no,
Best Actress, I until recently would have said Nicole Kidman.
I'm actually angry that Alana Haim didn't get nominated for
I
Licorice
am
Pizza
too.
for
I am
for
too.
lead actress.
I
Jessica
let's see, best
Chastain, Olivia Colman, Penelope
no.
Cruz. I would say if my I'm thinking Olivia Colman's going to win her second one.
You think so? You don't think the movie's passed?
No, because it got
It's
these
gonna come down
nominations.
between it's gonna come down between Olivia Colman and Nicole Kidman.
Mm.
And I've been wrong before. I'm possibly going to be wrong about Best Director, but I've been wrong before. But I will say that possibly it will be Nicole Kidman because looking at the nominees list, she is really the one that stands out.
It's it's supporting actor that is kind of up in the air for me. Supporting actress is usually the one that you cannot gauge, but
Hmm.
I don't think that there's a way Kirsten Dunst can lose that. I mean, maybe there is. Maybe Ariana DeBose will
Um,
take it, but I can't tell who's going to win supporting actor. I kind of want.
Cody Smith McPhee or Jesse Plemons.
I hope it's Troy Coaster or Troy Kotzer,
Yeah.
or Karen Hines. Um, I don't really want
Oh,
Belfast to have Oscars, but I want Karen Hines to have an Oscar. So,
Best supporting actress is going to be Jessie Buckley.
you think?
Yeah, I do.
Hmm.
Jessie Buckley or Kirsten Dunst.
I could see Ariana DeBose coming up from behind.
I don't think West Side Story is going to win anything.
Well, it's not like they haven't done that to Spielberg before.
Yeah. Original screenplay. Oh wow, it's either going to be King Richard or Licorice
I
Pizza.
think Licorice Pizza, or very possibly The Worst Person in the World, which is quite a good movie. I enjoy that quite a bit. That's in the Neon pack that we got. Um,
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
Neon Pack is a booklet of films that they send
Yeah,
us.
the production company Neon has really grown. Um,
Hmm. We get one of those
one of
every
my
year.
first years in the OFCS was their first year as a production company sending that out. So I have, we both have those the last 5 years, and one of
Hmm.
them after they got Parasite Best Picture,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
what was it? They did I Tonya, so they had the supporting
Hmm.
actress when what's her name won? Um,
Allison
yeah,
Janney.
Allison Janney, and they're really up and coming, and this is a Dutch,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, it was a lot of fun. It was really interesting. I'm glad that it's nominated for international feature too. Um, I actually might have put Renate Reinsve as Best Actress nominee personally.
Yeah.
Um, I highly recommend you checking that out. That was a
I
that
will.
was a good movie.
Definitely. Because it's
Yeah, it
nominated.
is.
I will.
It was good.
Okay, I have to ask you this. Best adapted screenplay. The only big, gigantic no that I can see in this is Dune.
Really?
Dune is the only one that I can see in this that's probably not going to win. I can say with confidence it's not going to win.
Really?
Mostly because I'm looking at Power of the Dog, Lost Daughter, Driving My Car, and CODA.
Well, I think
I'll say CODA won't win.
I think Dune has a good shot just because it's Dune and it's Denis Villeneuve, but they've owed Denis Villeneuve an Oscar for the past, like, I don't know, 10 years, so
But do you think they would give it an Oscar over Drive My
no.
Car?
I think adapted screenplay is going to go to Drive My Car or Power the
Power of the
Dog,
Dog.
because if they're not going to give Campion director, they'll give her adapted screenplay. They'll give her,
Just like they did with
they
the
will give
piano.
her something.
Just like they did with the
Yeah.
piano.
Um,
Um,
but also Dune has a handicap because it's part one of an indeterminate
yeah,
number of films. So
yeah.
like they did with The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers was the best movie, but The Return of the King is the one that got all the awards.
Right, right.
So I can see them not doing anything with Dune except nominating the crap out of it until the
Mm.
final part is released. And then lavish.
Documentary feature. Documentary feature is going to come down between two. It's either going to be Flea or Summer of Soul.
Oh, did you see Flea?
I did.
Oh, that was a.
If it's not Flea, it'll be Summer of Soul. Because this one
I think Summer
loves.
Soul is gonna win.
You think so? Let's see what else. Animated feature. That's Encanto.
Yeah, I think Mitchell's versus the Machines are gonna have a solid chance.
I think it's going to be Encanto. Because Encanto is so of the moment.
I would not be surprised if Encanto wins, and it's a damn good movie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I actually I think animated feature has a good chance of getting stolen by Mitchell's versus the Machines, which is I loved that movie.
Have you seen all of the international features? The five?
Uh,
The only one I have not seen is the one, or I haven't seen Worst Person in the World, but the other one I haven't seen is Lunana, and that's because it's not available. I can't find it anywhere.
um,
Yak in the Classroom?
oh yeah, no, I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
Um, I'm trying to get down to the list of them. I
Sorry.
forget which one which where they are. Yeah. The Yak in a Classroom is the only one I haven't seen.
Drive My Car will win.
Undoubtedly.
Yeah. See, now this is where I wish that the show still had the people winning the honorary award were still
Because
on.
Sam fucking Jackson,
Sam Jackson's getting an honorary award.
Elaine
I want to hear that
Elaine
speech.
May, I want to hear her.
Yeah.
Liv Ullman. I
Mhm.
mean,
Yeah.
three very deserving people
Danny Glover
getting the
getting
Herschel.
the
Yeah,
Herschel. I want to hear that.
yeah.
You know what they should do? They should film it. They should put that on their website.
Hmm.
I don't necessarily have to have it on the show, but at least put it on the website. I want to see the governor's ball. I want to see some of this stuff.
Yeah. See that I think that'd be really interesting if they um did that as a separate show, like
Yeah.
a week or two
Yeah,
before,
put that on the internet.
to or put it on the internet, put it on a show, broadcast it.
Hell, put it on E.
Yeah, I mean, it could be like one of those, hey, whet your appetite for the Oscars kind of a thing.
Yeah.
It would be a decent lead-in. I don't see why they're not doing it, but
Because it's ABC and they want to show it or show.
yeah,
I can't stand the fact that they're trying to make it young and hip and they're trying to trim it. Because you remember the last time they tried to
I
trim it,
do.
we ended up with the hosts with, was it Anne Hathaway and James Franco? It was the most boring show you've ever seen in your life.
James Franco slept through that whole thing.
Yeah, you know why? And Bruce Valanche said the reason he slept through it is because he came to rehearsals and he was on his phone. He wasn't paying any attention.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't learning his lines. He was just reading them off of the teleprompter the whole show.
Mm-hmm.
She was in it, but he wasn't, and
Oh,
that's why
I
that didn't
love Anne
work.
Hathaway, but yeah, that didn't work. Um,
Yeah.
it's going to be an
Well,
interesting show.
the only really good thing I can say about this year is at least it's not at the train station. I understand why that was necessary, but that was just
Yeah.
awkward. It felt like you had a party and you invited 200 people and about 40 of them
Yeah.
showed up. That's what it. And you've got these guys. You've got like people like Rel who are out there trying to keep things
Mm-hmm.
lively and trying to make it a party, and it's just not a party that's
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
You know.
Um, yeah, it's going
Anyway,
to be an interesting show. It's going to be an interesting
yeah,
night. I'm looking forward to it.
we do every
Yeah,
year.
and yeah, it's just I think that this one, if it doesn't go the power of the dog, it's going to go all over the place. Like
Yeah,
it's going to be if
and Drive My Car could surprise you.
I hope so.
Yeah,
Love that movie. All right. If there's nothing else here, what do we have coming up?
I don't know.
So we're we're
I've been
we're a
so
little
stuck in
behind because
Oscar.
of some technical difficulties on my end for getting things posted, and for us having time to actually record. Our Black History Month,
Right.
hopefully, will be in its entirety. But I plan Love and Basketball and Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song. Um,
Yeah, and I have chosen Hollywood Shuffle and Cooley
and
High.
we may only get one pick each. We may have to scuttle that for next whatever our second one for next year.
All right,
Just given time,
we'll
we'll
find
find
out.
out. We haven't come to those decisions yet. But you can find all of our back episodes that we have posted at the podbaydorspodcast.wordpress.com. You can listen to us on iTunes and YouTube. Hit the like, subscribe, notifications buttons. We are at pod_bay on Twitter and Patreon. Look us up there. We thank you so very much for joining us, and the Pod Bay doors are now closed.
The mission has been completed.